Okay, we'll start in the next 2 to 3 minutes. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Kishan, just keep on practicing questions. Everything is important for you. You have enough time for that. Rugna, I have to confirm that to you. We're working that out. There is a class on Saturday, that is for sure. Timing we have to work out. Let me check the studio once. Good morning, good morning. Right. So, the topics for today, in the last 7 years to our independence, we'll start with August offer. Then we'll go to individual satyagrah. From there, we'll talk about Cripps mission. Then we'll talk about Quit India. Thereafter, INA. Then INA trials and RIN mutiny. Maximum we'll cover till Wavell conference. And if we are there, we'll talk about cabinet mission also a little bit. But tomorrow we give India independence for sure in that regard. Yes, separate electorates was given to repressed classes even after Pune Pact. Yes, that is the way British operates. Even after that happened, they had the audacity to give it to the depressed classes. Pune Pact is not between the British and the Indians, but between Gandhi and Ambedkar. Therefore, doesn't really matter. The British can do anything that way. So, we should be reaching till 1945. But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to give you the master timeline for between 40 to 47 today only. And I'll reiterate it tomorrow again, because this 40 to 47, 46 and 47 is very, very multiple events month by month. So, very simply, the discussion has two parts. One discussion is what is happening in India. Then we have to discuss Mohan Singh, what was happening in Singapore. And then we'll be back to India again with what are the repercussions of the INA movement generally. So we are reaching close to 2 years closer, or just till 1945, 46, maximum 46, till our independence in that regard. The simple point of the matter is that now this area, there will be month by month multiple events in that sense. And we have to be cognizant of each one of them. And each one of them is quite important, specifically RIN mutiny and INA trials, because they send a message to the British which was quite significant in that regard. But there are two major developments which we need to understand, which is August offer and Cripps mission, which are together. This is 40, 41, 42, 42, 41 to 44. This is 45, this is 46, and this is 45. So we are reaching till February of 1946 in that regard. So if everyone's here, everybody is comfortable, can I start to develop the timeline? Because 40 to 47 timeline is a little bit heavy in the later periods. Yes, great. So before we go to August offer, let's try to understand the basic timeline we have to cover for today and tomorrow, which is in a way the timeline of our independence in that sense. Okay. So 1940, 41, 42, 43, 1944. Now, June of 1945. Thereafter, September of 1945. And by the end of it, December 1945. Thereafter, the 1946 timeline is heavy. February of 1946. Then you have May of 1946. Then July of 1946. Then August 1946. Then September 1946. October 1946. And February 1947. March 1947. And thereafter you have May 1947, June 1947, and then August of 1947. Their story stops finally. Now, what are the events which are related to each one of them? So, 1940 is August offer. 1941 is significant. Individual Satyagraha. But there's also one more timeline embedded into it. INA formed by Mohan Singh in Malaya. Then comes 1942, eventful year, multiple things again. Cripps mission. Thereafter, quit India. And you have INA battalion ready. India Independence League, Bangkok Conference, Rash Bihari Bose. Then comes the fateful year of 1943. Herein it's related to again INA. Subhash Chandra Bose reaches Singapore. Azad Hind Fauj and Sarkar proclaimed. Then 44 is very, very disastrous for the INA because of what is called the Imphal campaign. And thereafter, the INA will surrender along with the Japanese. We'll discuss that Japanese angle. Then June is Wavell Conference. Thereafter, September, Second World War ends. November, December is the spectacle called the INA trials, which is going to backfire on the British extremely hard. Then that will be followed in February by a very significant event which is called the RIN mutiny. RIN mutiny will be then followed by the cabinet mission. The cabinet mission will then be followed by interim government elections. By August, you will have what is called Direct Action Day for Pakistan. September is the formation of interim government. And by October of 1946, Muslim League joins the interim government, and thereafter this year 47 you have Attlee Declaration that India will be given independence in 1948, but that was technically not possible. And in March, Mountbatten Mountbatten will become viceroy. In May to June, we have what is called ISME plan, or what is called as Dickey Bird plan. June of 1947, Mountbatten plan, or 3rd June plan, and Indian independence. Indian independence on 15th August 1947. So this is basically the timeline of the last 7 years. And as you can see, there are multiple events related to each other. First is what is happening in India. August offer, individual satyagraha, Cripps mission, quit India. Then the yellow part is basically related to the INA, which is not in India, which is in Southeast Asia, Malaysia, and which is Mohan Singh formation of INA. Thereafter, Bangkok Conference by Rajbihari Bose, Indian Independence League. Then Azad Hind Fauj and Sarkar by Subhash Chandra Bose by 1943. Thereafter, in 1944, Imphal campaign is going to be problematic. Then Wavell Conference, Second World War ends in September of 1945. Then INA trials and RI mutiny, two eye-opening events. That in turn is going to lead to the cabinet mission, interim government boycotted by the Muslim League initially. By October, they will join. Then will Attlee Declaration by 1947 February that we will give India independence by June of 1948. But Mountbatten, as soon as he comes in March of 1947, realizes that is not possible. Therefore, his two deputies, Dickey Bird and Ismay, will try to work out how to partition India. And his own plan will be technically ratified into the India Independence Act, which is Mountbatten Plan or 3rd June Plan. And India will get independence on 15th August 1947. So this is basically the agenda for today and tomorrow first hour itself. We should reach till RIN in that regard. Last 1 hour can be done tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll give India independence. We'll do certain miscellaneous topics such as Civil Services Committee, the Viacom Satyagraha, and we'll discuss press, Congress sessions, and the Governor Generals. That is for tomorrow. As of right now, I hope you get the basic picture. Because if you look at it till 1940, there are bigger events. Now it is becoming micro in the sense that there are month by month things are happening, and therefore it is going to become important. If you can't remember the months, remember the sequence, because you need to know that when did cabinet mission happen, when did Wavell conference happen. You need to know the sequence in that regard, right? Because there are two purposes of this discussion. First is either to give you the date, or second to give you a basic idea of how are events going forward. Because in the books, these events are given out of chronology. In Spectrum, they're given out of chronology. So you have to know the basic chronology in that regard. So if everybody is comfortable, everybody is clear with regards to this basic timeline, I would like to start with August offer. Yes, everyone. So we'll come back to this. We will discuss it tomorrow again. Tomorrow, there will be 3 things which we'll do. We'll do previous year questions, complete everything vis-a-vis modern India. I will give you a master timeline from 1613 till 1947. And I will give you the tip, trick and strategy of modern India generally. We close modern India tomorrow. And thereafter, we will move forward with post-independence from Friday. Friday, Saturday, Monday is going to be our post-independence. I'm going to confirm the time to you. What is the class timing on Saturday? As of right now, you have a class on Saturday for sure. Timing, I have to confirm to you. Other than that, tomorrow is your last class of Modern India. And with this, we begin our discussion for today, which is August offer. Timing I have to work out. That is what I'm trying to work out. August offer. Now, before I discuss August offer, everyone's ready. Can we start? Come on. Okay. Now, when we talk about August offer, in order to understand the August offer, you need to understand something. See, in the Second World War, when we talk about the Second World War, there are phases in the Second World War. Say phases. Yes, Hariom, I'll tell you that also. There are phases in the Second World War. And very simply, we will discuss NCERT chapters. 8th class and 12th class NCERT whole are relevant to your preparation. So you want me to tell, chapters are all. The discussion is that there will be not full coverage in all the books. I'll still tell you the chapters, separate issue altogether. I'll get BP and Chandra. But NCERT, that 8th class and 12th class, part 3 is relevant in its entirety in that regard. If there's something to be left, I will tell you that. Okay. So, Second World War. There are phases in the Second World War. Vis-a-vis, there are two basic sides. If you remember and if you know, you have Britain, France versus Germany and Italy. And basically, initially, it is going to be Britain, France, Poland, and Belgium and Holland. This is the year of 1939. And basically, in the year of 1939, the simple point is that Italy and Germany had a clear edge. Hitler and Mussolini, Hitler from Germany and Mussolini is a man, not a woman. Mussolini and Hitler basically are going to have an edge in 1939. And between 1939 to 1940, generally these are called the Allied powers and these are called the Axis powers because of the same axis when it comes to longitude. So Allied powers and Axis powers. Between 1939 to 40, you have the Axis powers will have an edge because by June, July of 1940, by June and July of 1940, out of the countries which you see, France, Belgium, Holland or Netherlands had surrendered to Hitler. And basically, Britain was fighting this in what is called the Battle of Britain in a very, very, very tight corner, And now you can understand why I am having this discussion with you. Because when the August offer comes in 1940, the British are caught up in a major problematic sector. So the British are under a lot of pressure when it comes to June, July of 1940. British are under a lot of pressure because all of its allied had already the blitzkrieg of Hitler. We will discuss this when we'll talk about when we'll talk about world history. That Hitler had now rampaged through the France, Holland, Poland, Belgium, Holland, or even Poland had surrendered. All of these powers had surrendered by this point of time. So please understand that the August offer comes at a time when the British are actually caught up. Why did it happen? Second World War, everything. That is a question which needs too much context, and that is for world history. Namita, trust me, it happened. I will tell you why will it happen, but that is a discussion for world history. You need at least 7 hours of context for telling you why did Second World War happen. But Hitler started it. He wanted power. If you want to go with that, Hitler and Mussolini started it. So August offer should be seen in the context of this. Because understand one thing. When asked in January of 1940, Linlithgow was not ready to give anything. So why is that by August of 1940, he was ready to give something? Because this August offer is going to come from Linlithgow only. Now, understand one more thing. It is only in 1941 that Britain will be joined by the USSR, which is Russia, and the biggest blunder of the century is going to be done by a small power, and it will take on the worst of the worst, which is the US. Basically, Germany and Italy, the Japanese will join in 1941 by doing what is called Pearl Harbor, and US and the USSR only come by the third year of this war. This is going to be taught to you in proper detail. I will tell you again, year by year, month by month discussion, Eastern Front, Western Front, Egypt, everything I will do that. But simple point is USA is going to enter only when the Japanese will enter by 1941. Now, why am I saying this? Why am I saying this? Because when the Cripps mission is going to come in 1942, Cripps mission is going to come in 1942. Again, the context is basically Japanese upper hand in Southeast Asia and Axis power was still strong. So very simply, both these offers, Cripps mission and August offer, come in a context wherein the Axis powers, which is Germany, Italy, and Japanese by 1941, had an upper edge. So remember that the British did not give anything out of context. They gave it because by 1942, they were struggling. It is only after 1942 that the tide will turn, and the war is going to later end in September of 1945 with the surrender of the Japanese. The Japanese will surrender, and as it is, Hitler would shoot himself by May of 1945. And very simply, the attitude of the British will change by 1945. But things had already changed because by 1943, the Viceroy had changed. Till 1943, it is Linlithgow. But thereafter, it is Wavell. Wavell is going to be there between 1943 and 1947 February. But we will discuss Wavell and what is the implication of that. The simple point of the matter is I am trying to create the context for Quit India, Cripps mission and August offer together, wherein understand why was Gandhi so scared that he started a movement. The same man who said that I will not start a movement, I will not embarrass the British, he will start a movement by August of 1942, and same year Cripps mission is going to come. And the August offer was also offered in the context of the Second World War. So people tend to argue that one should not do world history, but you can realize that world history is very intricately connected to how modern India goes forward. So when I'll do world history with you, I will revisit all these moments with you again. But I hope that when I say August offer came as a concession because the British needed it, Cripps mission came as a concession because the British needed it, and Quit India, US was Quit India, Gandhi was extremely scared of the Japanese. Now you understand what I mean by that. That very simply till 1942, it is believed that the Axis powers have an edge over the Allied powers. Once the US will enter, it will become a game changer. By 1943, USSR was defeating Hitler. Hitler was getting defeated left, right, and center. And Japanese will also retreat by 1942-45. So, what is Cripps mission? What is August offer? I have to tell you that. I'm telling you something different, you're asking me something different. You tell me first thing, can you understand the context of these three events? August offer, Cripps mission, and Quit India. That is making sense to you, right? So if this makes sense, then I'll go into the August offer. Very simply, there are three phases in the war. First period is between 1939 to 40. That is properly Hitler rampaging, Hitler having an upper edge. 41 to 42 is seen as the tide turning, and 42 to 45 is thereafter, or 43 to 45 is when Hitler's going to Axis powers are going to start to lose generally. So therefore, all of these events are intricately connected to the world perspective, wherein what was happening in the Second World War. Can I discuss August offer? Is this clear? Because you need to understand this point. Why would Lilithgow give anything and why would Churchill give anything? Okay. Now let's discuss August offer. Now Nehru was very clear that we are only going to help you, or you will have Indian support only when you give us concessions. Now, Churchill was under a lot of pressure. Churchill is the Prime Minister of Britain. He is under a lot of pressure, conservative Prime Minister, to get Indian help and to get Indian support generally. On the other hand, Lilithgow in January had shown a lot of attitude to the INC, and because of the surrender of France, Belgium, Holland, and Netherlands, now they had to offer something to the Indians under the pressure of getting their support. But understand one thing very, very clearly. August offer and Cripps mission, both in a way, were not genuine attempts to give India independence. They were again a drama which the British were doing. And see, there was a lot of international pressure on Britain to argue that you are fighting for democracy, but you are also denying democracy in India. So Churchill used to argue that, see, I offered in 1940, they did not take it. I offered in 1942, they did not take it. Very simply, both these offers, understand this point, August offer and Cripps mission, were designed to fail. So it's, for example, I say that you can become a UPSC aspirant, you don't have to give the examination. However, for that you have to go to Mars. Now, I'm offering you something also, that you can become an IAS officer, but for that you have to go to Mars. In Mars, there's a 2 districts are there, and you have to become an IAS officer there. No need to give the examination. I'm again offering you something, but it is designed to fail, because how will you go to Mars? Same way, August offer and Cripps mission were designed in such a way that the INC would reject it, so that Churchill could say very simply, see, I offered, they didn't take. Lilithgow said, I went pleading to them that take our offer, but both offers had very dangerous clauses. So understand this point very, very clearly. These are not genuine attempts by Churchill. That is why that whatever you want to call him, Churchill was that person who actually was doing a drama that show to the Americans that we are trying to do something. But every time they put in certain clauses which the INC would never accept in their dreams also. So two things should be clear. It is connected to the world event, and second, it was designed to fail. Churchill is the Prime Minister of Britain at this point of time, and as I said, he had no genuine feeling or understanding to give India independence at this point of time. So what does Lilithgow and Churchill offer to us in August offer or in 1940? Now, this is the first time, what we had asked for in 1929. Now, the first offer under August offer was India will be granted dominion status as soon as war is over But this dominion status was in a way within the Commonwealth or within the empire. It does not say that if India can become free after it becomes a dominion. So in a way, what they've offered to us is dominion within the empire. Now, as it is, by this point of time, we had reiterated multiple times that we want complete independence. So what was the point of giving us dominion? So you can see how it's not a genuine event. It's not a genuine offer. I have been saying since Lahore session in December of 1929 that I don't want dominion, but you are offering me dominion only. So this is a significant event because in the August offer, for the first time, India got dominion. At least in principle, they had now given us a concession. This is the first time the British offered it to us. However, we don't want it only. We don't want it only. So very simply, if Motilal Nehru was there, he would have taken it. But Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose will not accept this type of concession. So very simply, we have said complete independence, complete independence, complete independence. Now you are giving us dominion. So in a way, the INC was never going to accept. But there is another clause which made this concept very problematic. And that was that after the war, a constituent assembly mainly comprising of Indians will write the new constitution. Till then, Viceroy's Executive Council will be reformed, add more Indians, and the most problematic aspect was that any constitution should be with the consent of minorities. Now you can see there are two major issues here. Firstly, how do you define mainly? One Indian can also be mainly. 5 Indians can also be mainly. Half Indian can also be mainly. Constituent assembly mainly comprising of Indian means that there would be Britishers also and Indians also. Now, how many Indians are going to be there? That is not defined only. So first blunder is, or first what we call as drama is this concept of dominion. That we are going to give you dominion status, and very simply, that is what we offer to you. August offer. And after the war, we'll constitute a constituent assembly mainly comprising of Indians. So here, which means that Britishers will also be involved in making the constitution. And if not enough, they said that the consent of minorities was necessary for this constitution. Do you think that minorities specifically, this clause, who made this clause into, whose impact was it? Jinnah. This is the second wife saying, add a clause that until and unless I don't say that I consent to the constitution, don't let the constitution go forward. So this is that romance, that intimate relationship of Jinnah and Linlithgow, that very simply consent of minorities is needed. So very simply, Linlithgow and Jinha now have worked out something in a way that the INC was automatically going to reject it. The rejection is going to come in 3 points. One, dominion status was never going to be acceptable to the INC. Second, mainly means that you are still pushing in Britishers, which is not acceptable. And third is you are making sure that minorities dictate the constitution, which is again not acceptable to the INC. So I hope by looking at the offer itself, you can realize how the basic provisions are made, designed to fail. So he will reform his executive council, add more Indians. That's a drama. Simple point is, would this be acceptable to the INC in 1940? Tell me. Knowing that the war is happening, Britain is losing, the INC, would it accept the August offer? Obviously not. I would not accept the August offer. You won't accept the August offer. Very simply, August offer was designed to fail. It was designed to fail. Designed to fail. Now, very simply, what are the provisions? Just to reiterate, dominion status as the objective for India. August of 1940, it is offered. Expansion of Executive Council to have majority of Indians. Further setting up of a constituent assembly after the war, where mainly Indians would decide the constitution according to their economic, social, political conceptions. Fulfillment of the obligation of the government. No future constitution without the consent of the minorities. So you can see that there are multiple concepts which the INC would never accept generally, and automatically the INC will reject it. Response is August offer. Nehru said dominion status was a concept dead as a doornail. It was something which had rusted, did not need. And Gandhi said that this is only going to widen the gap between the nationalists and the British. Muslim League welcomed the concept that they're getting a veto if they want or like the constitution or not. And that ways it was making sure that the partition was going to happen. However, for the first time, the inherent right of Indians to frame their constitution and getting dominion was recognized for the first time. This is the positive aspect here, that for the first time the British are conceiving to the fact that Indians can write their own constitution, and dominion status was explicitly offered. But as you know, by 1941, there will be 8 out of the 12 members will be Indians. Executive Council will also be dominated by non-official members. National Defense Council is going to come up. But basically, this is all meaningless because the Governor General and Viceroy still has all the power. So his Executive Council is still bound by the powers of the Viceroy. So 1940 already it is a failure in that regard. August offer was never acceptable to the British, to the INC in that regard. And it's not that they genuinely offered something. It was something which was never offered genuinely in that regard, right? So can I discuss individual and then go to Cripps mission? Yes, perfect. Now, Gandhi was again approached by Nehru. Nehru said, are we now ready for something? You said in 1940 we weren't. Now are we ready for something? So Gandhi still says that mass movement is not possible. And Gandhi's half-hearted attempt at a movement is called the individual satyagraha. He said that, Nehru said that, see what is the mockery the British are making. They have offered us everything which was rotten. At least do something. And in 1941, Gandhi will launch what is called individual satyagraha. And the concept was masses are not going to do anything. Individuals will. So the concept was very simple. Because there is wartime repression and censorship of the press, not everyone, 2 to 3 important individuals of each and every locality will start to criticize the British and use their free speech. Once they have inspired the people in their locality, they will move into the next village and then again talk about the British and their brutality, then move to the next village, move to the next village, until and unless they don't get arrested, because you are using your freedom of speech during wartime repression. And the target was that individuals from different part of India all should inspire people and they all should reach Delhi. And that is why this movement is also called Delhi Chalo movement, that we will move towards Delhi. So Satyagrahis will start from their localities and slowly but surely move towards Delhi as their main target. And the first person to do this was Acharya Vinoba Bhave, and second was Jawaharlal Nehru. And close to 20 to 25,000 people will get arrested also. But it's technically pointless. It's technically pointless because the thing as a pressure is created on the British. You need to create pressure on the British, which is not possible. And as it is, Gandhi was not ready to put too much pressure on the British at this point of time. So the movement is very simple. By end of 1940, Congress is going to again ask Gandhi to do something. Gandhi will now say that we need to move towards mass movement, but for that we need people to again understand what is Satyagraha. So limited Satyagraha on individual basis of selected individual in every locality. The demand of the Satyagrahi would be freedom of speech against the wartime anti-war declaration. If the government did not arrest the Satyagrahi, he or she should not only repeat it, but move into villages, start the march towards Delhi. That is why it's called the Delhi Chalo movement. First was Vinoba Bhave, thereafter Nehru, and by 1941 May, 25,000 people were arrested for individual civil disobedience or individual Satyagraha. But I hope you're getting the pointlessness of 1941. That you have August offer, and then you have individual Satyagraha. But individual Satyagraha does not create enough pressure on the British generally, because it's just people will move out, then they will get arrested only. So the simple point is, Gandhi just said that I will not pressurize the British. This is to get the people ready. So it's just about creating a certain readiness in the people that yes, Satyagraha is coming, Satyagraha is coming. 40, 41 clear, because then I need to discuss Cripps mission, the most important document. Then I'll give you a comparative perspective of August offer and Cripps mission. Can I discuss Cripps mission now? Nothing in individual Satyagraha, Vinoba Bhave and Nehru. Okay. Now the Japanese have come into the picture. And because everything or the Axis powers were mostly in Europe, the threat to the British in India was quite less. Quite less, because it was quite unlikely that Hitler was going to come to India and capture power. However, with the entry of the Japanese, things change. Because with the entry of the Japanese, why do things change? Because very simply, now the Japanese can come down the South China Sea and they can take most of the South Asian sector. And at this point of time, in 1942, the Japanese will start in Japan, they will rampage through China, they will take Korea, they will take thereafter the Malayan Peninsula. And very simply, in the Malayan Peninsula, you have Malayan Peninsula is a British colony. And very simply, which is the Thailand, the Malaysia sector. As soon as the Japanese were moving in this sector, the British showed ultimate cowardness, wherein the British just used to leave the people to the mercy of the Japanese. Japanese that was very aggressive colonial imperial power, used to kill anybody and everybody, very brutal that way. And the British just used to board the planes and leave, and they used to leave everybody behind to the mercy of the Japanese. So 1942 is a very, very, very dangerous period for India itself, because the Japanese were coming closer and closer to the Indian subcontinent. So there's a lot of Japanese pressure on the British. Japanese pressure, quite a lot. And two things will happen because of this Japanese pressure. One is the Cripps mission. The second one is the Quit India movement. Now, let's discuss first the Cripps mission. So, a person called Stanford Cripps is going to be sent to India. Stanford Cripps is going to be sent to India. It is after him that the name Cripps mission is offered, or that is the name which it takes, Cripps mission 1942. And because of this Japanese pressure, one thing more was happening, that the USA was creating a lot of pressure, on the British support. More than that, at this point of time, power politics is happening. The US wanted to now take the position of the Britain or the British as the international power itself, and therefore they are saying to the British that you get Indian support. You show to us that Churchill was under pressure, that you show to us that you're actually fighting for democracy. So the US was also creating a lot of pressure on Churchill. So now again Churchill will do a major drama, and that drama is called the Cripps mission by sending Stanford Cripps. Cripps mission again was designed to fail, but there's very significant changes which are made between August offer and Cripps mission. And that is, can I discuss the provisions? Cripps mission, you understand the context, right? Okay. Yes, the more the British are under pressure, the more they offer to us. Perfect. Now, the first concept which the Cripps mission gives us is the concept that India will be given dominion status. So again, that same hut, the same standard argument. India will be given dominion status, but it will allow Indians to decide their relationship with Commonwealth or empire and the United Nations bodies which were going to be created. This is a very significant development, because for the first time they are saying, we are going to give you dominion, but then you are free to decide what you want to do. So this is the concept of dominion outside the empire. And ironically, this is how we got independence also. That India was first given dominion status, that we create two dominions, India and Pakistan, and thereafter we will be allowed to decide what we do with that dominion status. So obviously we were never going to remain in the British Empire. So India was given again dominion status. But the simple point of the matter was, now we were allowed to decide what our relationship is going to be with the Commonwealth once we do get it. So dominion within August offer is within the empire. But here it is outside the empire, that we can remain a dominion without having a relationship. Therefore, independence could become complete independence only after transfer of power. So this is a very significant development. In a way, this is a very positive development, because the British have now realized we will never take dominion within the empire. That Swaraj within the empire was never going to come through. We will take something better than that, and that is the way how we got it. That we dictate our relationship thereafter, but the British will initially create dominion only. Is this making sense? How is it significantly different from the August offer? Because in the August offer, they had no concept of us leaving the dominion, leaving the empire. Here we can leave the empire if we want to. Very good. Now the second clause is equally interesting. Second clause is equally interesting. Dominion status, suzerainty is a very big concept. Suzerainty is decentralized power. Dominion status is a very specific thing wherein how two powers share power. In the sense where the ultimate executive is a different power, it becomes dominion status. Leaving empire means that we can cease to be a British colony. Understand this. When we leave the empire, then we cease to be a British colony. In a way, we can get complete independence, but it's a two-step process. British used to say previously dominion and nothing. Now they say dominion and then you can get complete independence. That is the way we got it also. Colony, dominion, complete independence. Before it, it was only colony, dominion. Never the concept of complete independence was recognized. Are you getting my point? Okay, perfect. So this is a very, very, very major development that ways. And ironically, it is the way it was given also. Now, second, the next important development was after the war, Constituent Assembly will be created of all Indians based on proportional representation from provinces and nominated members of princely states. Now, this again is a major development, positive development, because from mainly Indians, it says all Indians, meaning that the Constituent Assembly will not have any British element. It will have all Indians, but have two parts to it. Some of the members will be nominated by the princely states, and some of the members will be chosen by the proportional representation as represented in the provinces. So this comes from British India, this comes from the princely states. So proportional representation was decided rather than the first past the post system, and two parts were accepted. Simply, the concept is very significant. Why? Because the Constituent Assembly is now not mainly of Indians, but fully Indian. Second clause clear? Because now comes the problematic clause. Okay. Now, the problematic clause is the third one. Which is called the precursor for partition. Basically, it's dubbed as what is called the partition clause. This is where, again, if tell me one thing. If dominion status outside the empire was offered to the INC, along with the concept that the Constituent Assembly will be constituted by proportional representation of members from provinces and nominated members from princely states, would the INC would have accepted it? These two clauses were only there. In a way, they would have, because these two clauses actually are quite positive. That we will have all Indians, we will have proportional representation, but though they did not want proportional, but still. And as of right now, if this was the Cripps mission, then we would have accepted it for sure, because we are getting complete independence some way. Some way or the other, we're getting it, and we're getting a constituent assembly where British are not involved. Now, Churchill had to add something so that the INC would reject it. And therein comes the third clause. And the third clause very simply says, if a province does not want to be part of the Indian Union, it can leave the Union and form a new union or political unit. Now tell me, whose influence is this? It's not complete independence, but we had to accept in a way what was coming to us. The first two clauses actually make sense. Yes, this is Jinha. Again Jinha, and you can see that in a way this is creating the context for Pakistan, that if a province does not want it, it can leave the union and form a new political unit itself. This is basically divide and rule. And this became unacceptable to the Congress. The Congress said this is unacceptable, and just to express his love for Jinha, Lithgow added one more thing: minorities issue needs to get resolved for constitution making. Basically, Lithgow saying to Jinha, I love you. That's the basic point. That only when the minorities issue is going to get resolved, then we will go for constitution making. This is the two clauses which were unacceptable to the Congress. In a way, why is the second roundtable conference important? You tell me, why is the second roundtable conference important? Come on. Minorities means Sikhs, Christians, Anglo-Indians, but Muslims are the biggest majority within minorities. Why is the second roundtable conference important? Come on, tell me. Communal about separate electorates. Why? Because see, in the second roundtable conference, they realized that the minorities pact and the minorities issue can be used to delay independence. So now think like a Britisher. The Britisher were trying to find the vein out of which India could be denied independence. And the vein was that they saw at the second roundtable conference that even Gandhi can be undercut by minorities. And here is the master plan at work. Which you can see that partition clause and minorities issue were again used to design the Cripps mission in such a way that Lithgow was going to offer it to the INC. INC was never going to accept it because it's unacceptable. So just to reiterate this out of the exact wording which is there in the clause itself, Cripps mission was sent when the Japanese were rampaging through the Southeast Asian sector. Pressure was also there from the US, USSR, China, all of them to seek Indian cooperation. It is in this context that Stanford Cripps is going to come in March of 1942. This is the major clause. Lithgow is the viceroy. An Indian union with a dominion status would be set up. Now, it would be free to decide its relationship with the Commonwealth and free to participate in United Nations and other bodies. Though United Nations is only going to come up in 1945, the idea was already there. Thereafter, this is the positive clause. Then you have second clause, again the positive one. After the end of the war, a Constituent Assembly would be convened to frame a new constitution. Members of this assembly would be partly elected by provincial assemblies with proportional representation and partly by nominated by princes. So again a good clause. Now comes the problematic one. Simple point of time, China was never a colony of the British. Don't know that. We will discuss that in world history. China was never a colony of anybody. It was under imperialistic control, not colonialism. The British government would accept a new constitution subject to two conditions. Now, subject to two conditions. Any province not willing to join the union can form a separate constitution and form a separate union. And the new constitution making body and the British government will negotiate a treaty of transfer of power only after safeguarding the racial and religious minorities. In the meantime, the British will control the defense of India and the Governor General's power are going to be intact. So you can see all the negative clauses come here. So if this makes sense, can I write August Offer and Cripps Mission next to each other so that we can consolidate everything together? Yes, they are deliberately adding unacceptable clauses. Perfect. Very good. Now you are thinking like an Indian, thinking like a Britisher. Okay. Making of the constitution solely in Indian hands, a new thing from mainly to all. Concrete plan was given for Constituent Assembly. Very good. Allowed Indians administration in the interim period also. However, the blueprint for the partition was created because of that clause. And though India was free to withdraw from the Commonwealth, at the end of the day, this was an unacceptable clause to everyone. So failure is why? Because it was never able to satisfy these nationalists. Further, the attitude was like take it or leave it. If you want it, you take it. If you don't want it, don't take it. Further, nobody knew how it was going to get implemented, how it was going to be interpreted. Churchill only wanted to create a certain type of drama, and the talks will, as it is, break down on Viceroy's veto. So the Congress straight away will say that we don't want this because you are not giving us again complete independence. Still acceptable if you are saying dominion and we can become completely independent. You are saying nominees should be there from princely states. No, fully elected members should be there. Again, the basic point is national unity is going to get affected by the Cripps Mission. And in the absence of any real share in defense of and transfer of power as of right now, we don't accept it. Simple point is the Governor General still remains very, very powerful, and that is not what we want. Nehru and Azad were the ones who were negotiating. Gandhi will call it a post-dated check. And Nehru very straightforward say that everything remains intact, the existing structure, autocratic powers, and Viceroy's followers and everybody very, very simply are just going to use it as a form of pushing British interest. So there's no point itself. On the other hand, League objected to the point that there should be no single Indian Union, did not like the mechanism of the creation of Constituent Assembly because if in 1936 elections were done and proportional representation was there and 100 seats were there, how many seats would the League get? League also rejected the Cripps Mission. 3% vote share was there. So 3 seats it would get. So they never wanted this concept itself, which is that proportional representation should not be there. So it denied Muslims the right to self-determination and creation of Pakistan. So basically the British are of no one. So in a way, Linlithgow defied his second wife also by saying that I love you, that yes, minorities clause is there. However, when it came to actually giving certain proper concessions, nothing. So both Cripps Mission and August Offer designed to create discord and designed to fail. So the British never were going to be of the, as it is, Jinnah was a fool if he thought that Linlithgow was going to be pro-Muslim League when it came to giving power. Wavell was a fool, which I will show you soon. Now let's write August Offer and Cripps Mission together. Everybody is following this train of thought because then we enter Quit India after this. Okay, perfect. Okay. So August Offer, dominion status within empire, dominion status outside the empire. So we have an option to leave the empire. Further, Constituent Assembly mainly of Indians. Here, no Vivek, no. Constituent. Muslim League was to undercut the INC. Yes, that's the basic point. Constituent Assembly comprised of only Indians, proportional representation for provinces, and concept of nomination for princely states. Outside the empire concept means that under the first, you cannot leave British domination. Under the second, they will give you dominion status. Then you can get complete independence, or then you declare that you want to be completely independent from the British. What is the unique thing? Minorities consent. And here it is partition clause. Provinces can write. The empire, Commonwealth, same thing. It's a good way of saying empire. Same thing. Provinces can write their own constitution. Minorities' interests safeguarded. Now, can I close this topic? First three events done. Muslim League was demanding for, in a way, a separate nation. Two-nation theory was there by this point of time. Okay. These two offers given by Linlithgow. Yes, both are Linlithgow. Till 43, everything is Linlithgow only. Now, can I go to the second response? Congress objection is, we don't want dominion, we want complete. We don't accept the partition clause. That was the basic thing. Never acceptable to anybody. So, can I talk about Quit India movement? Are we clear with regards to August offer, individual Satyagrah, Cripps mission? No, Ilma, that it's the other way around. Okay. Yes, no, I want everybody's consent. Yes, okay. Now comes the second response to the Japanese onslaught. See, Gandhi was the same man who in 1941 said, no, individual Satyagrah. But as soon as the Japanese came to the Malayan Peninsula, which is Malaysia, now Gandhi could not sleep only. Gandhi became extremely nervous, as much as Nehru was also concerned, but Gandhi was extremely nervous. He knew that an imminent Japanese invasion was coming. The Japanese are coming, the Japanese are coming, the Japanese are coming. And Gandhi's understanding was that we can't be under the British, because what did the British do in Malayan Peninsula? The Japanese came, they said, see, hold India, I am going to London. This is what they did. That very simply, wherever the Japanese came, the British just boarded the planes and went to London. So, Gandhi's understanding was that we can't be under the British, who are technically they are absconding, bhagode. They are absconding from everywhere. We can't leave our fate to the Britishers. So the understanding, why is it called Quit India? Which is that you quit India. You as it is are going to run away. You will run away. So you run away right now only. Give us power so that we can figure it out with the Japanese what to do. So the Quit India movement, there's a sense of urgency in Gandhi. A sense of urgency in Gandhi which never we had seen in Gandhi generally. because Gandhi now became paranoid with the fact that fascists are coming, Hitler is coming, Japanese are coming. As it is, Gandhi was ready to do anything to make sure that he could support the British against the fascists. Now the fascists are knocking on the door itself. They are 50 to 60 kilometers away from Andaman Nicobar Islands, and they can enter into India. And see, his desperation should also be understood, because Japanese are brutal. Japanese are this much, but their ego is too much. Japanese, in a way, though nobody deserves anything, but in a way, deserve the atomic bombs. Why? Because Hitler has surrendered. Italy has surrendered. By May, June, everybody surrendered. Japanese are like, we will not surrender. So America says, okay, then we will make you surrender. Hiroshima, Nagasaki. So Japanese had this sense of false superiority. And whenever it came to this concept that if the Japanese imperialism came to India, then it would have been brutal. So it is understandable why Gandhi is extremely nervous. And based on that nervousness, and now I'm doing something. I'm going to give you the overview of Quit India, and then we'll go into the movement. So please note that I'm right now going to give you the overview, and then we'll go into the movement through the PPT itself. Now, what are the features, or what is the major point of Quit India? The first context is, see, Japanese presence in Southeast Asia is the reason why Gandhi changed his own song, which is I don't want to embarrass the British, to now saying quit India, quit India, quit India. So the simple point is, the way Gandhi changed his stance was based on Japanese presence in Southeast Asia, and basically the Malayan Peninsula now under Japanese control, which means that they are only hundreds of kilometers away from the Indian territory of what we call as Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Now, what is going to happen is that on August 8th, 1942, at the Govalia tank in Bombay, Gandhi will pass the Quit India resolution. Govalia tank, Bombay. Now, in that Quit India resolution, he will say straightforward, Govalia tank, 8th August, we demand immediate end of British rule in India. We demand immediate end to British rule in India. Declare the commitment that free India will work it out what they want to do with all types of fascism and imperialism. We should have the right to defend ourselves. We will form a provisional government of India after British withdrawal. Civil disobedience should start against the British. And Gandhi was going to be the leader of this struggle. And thereafter, Gandhi had instructions for everyone. Government servants, do not resign, but show your allegiance to the Congress. Soldiers, do not leave the army, but don't fire on Indians. Students, very important, if confident, leave studies. Only if confident. Thereafter, peasants, again, Lithgow is the Governor General. Peasants, if zamindars are anti-government, pay mutual agreed rent. If zamindar is pro-government, do not pay rent. Princes, support your masses and accept sovereignty of the people. Princely state people, if your ruler is anti-government, support him. If pro-government, then become the part of Indian nation. Very simply, he's again done what? Where have we seen this type of instructions previously? Where have we seen the instruction previously? In the civil disobedience movement. Very good. In CDM, he had already done it, wherein he had given the instructions that he knew that he was going to get arrested in Salt Satyagrah or in Dandi March, so therefore instructions. So now Gandhi has given a lot of instructions to the people on 8th August 1942. And very simply, Gandhi will thereafter end this speech with a very important line. I give you a mantra, and that mantra is do or die. Do or die. So, very simply, his speech is going to end with a very important mantra. Here is a mantra, a short one that I give you. This is the exact quote what he said. You may imprint it in your hearts and let every breath of yours give expression to it. The mantra is do or die. We shall either free India or die in the attempt. We shall not live to see the what is called the perpetuation of our own slavery. Now, a lot of people know individual Satyagraha Quit India is different. 1 year difference, 1941-42. Now, please understand one thing very clearly. People tend to argue that Gandhi here sanctioned violence. But Gandhi is not literally saying to go and die. This is a type of metaphorical emphasis that I am saying that you do or die in the sense that don't go and literally die. It's that it's a way of emphasizing on the fact that give your best. So please understand this point. This is not a cry for violence. It is a metaphorical way of emphasis. Please understand this point. If people say, I will die before I clear UPSC. Either I die or I clear UPSC. But do you really think that they're saying that they will die or clear UPSC? No. It's trying to show their commitment. So here again, Gandhi is saying that your commitment should be like this, wherein you need to literally work for Indian independence, because this is the last moment in which we can do anything. Now, Quit India will start. But 8th August 1942, Quit India resolution was passed. And see, Linlithgow said, I'm in no mood to negotiate. I'm in no mood to have a movement, then we go for struggle, then we truce, then we again struggle. He said, I don't have the time. So what will happen is that on the morning of 9th August 1942, all prominent personalities arrested, INC was banned, and CWC members arrested, and in the stroke of the morning itself, it became a leaderless movement. In the sense that Gandhi had no control over this movement, or even the INC had no control over this movement. Quit India resolution will be passed, and as soon as Quit India resolution will be passed, the Congress Working Committee members, the INC will be banned, prominent members, Nehru, Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad, Gandhi, Rajendra Prasad, all will be picked up by the government. In the morning itself, early morning raids will happen, and in the morning itself, people wake up to their leaders gone. Now you tell me one thing. If you are told by Gandhi, do or die, get independence, and next morning you can't find Gandhi, what are you going to do? Yes, you will lose your mind. And literal chaos came through. What happened thereafter was that as soon as this is going to happen, public rampage will start. Violence, British institutions will be burnt, police and people will clash. Now India literally started to burn. So when we talk about the Quit India movement, Quit India movement, the following features mark the Quit India. The following features mark the Quit India. First is 8th August 1942 resolution and instruction. Thereafter, it was a leaderless movement wherein new leadership will come, but the original leadership was gone. Public rampage. Never in the history of Indian national movement this much level of violence had been seen by the people, because the people had lost it. Now, some people will argue on the WhatsApp University that Gandhi did not say anything about this violence. So, in a way, Gandhi accepted and perpetuated this violence. So, Gandhi is a hypocrite. Gandhi hence proved RHS equals to the LHS, that Gandhi equals to hypocrite because he allowed violence to happen in Quit India movement. Now, tell me one thing. Did Gandhi have actually any control over this movement? Or was he even in a position to stop this movement or take it back? No. So when you say that Gandhi in a way accepted violence, you are forgetting the fact that Gandhi was taken to an unknown location and nobody knew where Gandhi was. And people were going to very simply do what they were going to do, which is show their anger against their leaders gone. So public rampage was not something sanctioned by Gandhi, and Gandhi was not in a position to take it back also. But what makes Quit India is a very beautiful thing, which is that as soon as the old leadership is gone, rampage means destruction, death, fighting, that way. Why did Linithgoh do so in morning of 9th? Because he was in no mood to negotiate or tolerate a movement. So, as soon as it becomes leaderless, why is that we say that Gandhi succeeded in that sense? Because new leadership will emerge. Women, students become important members and played important role. On the other hand, you have the fact that anti-government processions will start. Peasants will start no rent campaign. Workers will strike. Underground, or what we call as secret societies, will emerge. In this, a very significant lady, named Usha Mehta. Usha Mehta was a very aristocratic, very wealthy family member, very wealthy family she came from. And in her car dicky, she used to always keep rifles and guns so that she could distribute it to revolutionaries. She also started what is called the Bombay Radio. This Bombay Radio, very simply, was an underground radio which used to broadcast to the other revolutionaries what to do, and very simply, it used to send instructions to the people also. So it used to always say something on a different frequency every day, so that the Indians knew what frequency to go and check what Usha Mehta was technically trying to say. Aruna Asaf Ali, the wife of Asaf Ali, will emerge as a very, very important personality. So women, the members, basically the wives of the national movement leaders, is going to become important. For example, JB Kriplani will get arrested, so Sucheta Kriplani will become important. Asaf Ali will get arrested, so Aruna Asaf Ali is going to become important. Usha Mehta is going to become a very important personality generally. And more than that, in certain parts of India, parallel governments will emerge, wherein there is a total breakdown of British authority. So for example, in Tamluk, in Balia, the whole authority of the British will be gone, and Gandhi Raj will be actually proclaimed in certain areas for 2 to 3 years. So if you look at the Quit India movement generally, the basic point of the matter is women students will play an active role. Peasants will go for their no rent campaign. Workers will strike. Parallel governments will emerge. Underground societies and secret societies will come up. Jayaprakash Narayan is going to become very important. New leadership will emerge very, very quickly. And very simply, parallel governments, in the sense that government of India is gone, they remove the British from that sector. Think of it like 1857. And they will have 2 to 3 years parallel governments in certain sectors. Now, I'm going to read this all out of anti-government procession mean that you don't like the government. What I want to argue is that, do you really think that this was possible in 1922 or 1935? That as soon as Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose, everybody is gone, the people know what to do. And this is why Quit India is considered important, and this is why Gandhi is considered important. We'll be back to this slide. Again when I'll discuss everything. What I mean to argue is that Gandhi never succeeded in getting anything. But he succeeded in one thing, which is that through Rowlatt, through non-cooperation movement, through CDM, he had taught the people what to do when it came to the British acting in the most autocratic way possible. Therefore, Quit India is mostly considered a culmination of Gandhian effort. That by Quit India, by 1942, now it was guaranteed that the British will never survive in India, because every Indian knew what is their role, and every Indian knew that the British were not to be tolerated about. This is not something which was given in 1857. It was not in 1919. It was not in 1922. It was not in 1929. It was not in 1935. It was not in 1940 that we were ready. Gandhi, step by step, taught us. In 1919, he taught us a hartal. Thereafter, in 1920 to 22, he taught us boycott, proper boycott. Then in 1929 to 34 period, he taught us the concept of civil disobedience. Thereafter, in 1941, he taught us individual satyagraha, wherein leaders from localities can become important. In a way, 1942, Quit India will not do anything. But Quit India is a major movement, because what we argue is that between 1915 to 1941, this is called the Gandhian phase. Now, by 1942, Quit India is argued as mass nationalism, or what we call as people's movement. Now they don't need leaders, they know what to do. I'm trying to emphasize this point quite a lot, because Quit India people don't understand the importance. It is a culmination of Gandhian methodology. People can criticize and do whatever they want to do. They can say Gandhi never succeeded. I said it in the beginning itself. Gandhi never succeeded. He never succeeded in Rowlatt, led to Jallianwala Bagh. He never succeeded in non-cooperation, led to Chauri Chaura. He never succeeded in CDM, Gandhi. In fact, individual satyagrah, and in between 1934 to 41, he had lost his mind. But the point of the matter was, when in 1942, when people were not there, when the leaders were not there, when the INC was not there to lead the people knew what to do. People had learned what to do and how to respond to British oppression. This is why, in a way, by 1945-46, it became inevitable that the British could not survive, because as soon as a child was born, and from the first breath, that child used to say, "Go back, British, do or die, quit India." Every Indian in that period knew that the British were oppressors. Every Indian knew what to do, what was their role. In their own form, they technically were what we call as appropriating Gandhian methodology. So if somebody asks you, yes, Gandhi never told them to do violence, but did all 8 crore people of India did violence? No. The point of the matter is, when there is what is called underground activity, when there is no rent campaign, when there is hartals, that is also the way, very simply, they are learning not to do violence. But people will do violence, frustration will always be there. Simple point is, when Bahadur Shah Zafar in 1857 said that Ajamgarh proclamation, that let us all come together, it was the Punjab regiment, the DFF, which went and brought back Delhi. It was not an all India event. When it came to quit India, it had now become an all India level movement. It had become a mass struggle. It had now become a people's movement. So now when somebody asks you what is the importance of Gandhian methodology, when they ask you what is the significance of Quit India movement, are you in a position to understand and write that? Yes? Okay. So let's close the Quit India and then we'll take a break. And when we are back from that, we'll discuss INA, thereafter INA trials, and thereafter RI and mutiny. Okay. What about Gandhi? Gandhi is arrested. Gandhi is not in the picture as of right now. It's not that the masses understand the importance of the Japanese threat. They understand the importance of Quit India. See, people were frustrated. By this point of time, it was very clear that India was never going to be in the hand of the British for too long now. Okay. So we know that at Govalia tank, can I give you the basic details? These features are clear. I'm adding the details into these features. I'll again write the features before I give you the break. Okay. Okay. Now, Govalia tank comes on 8th August. The cry, quit India. Thereafter, instruction to everybody. But do and I be important mantra. Now, what happens is that Gandhi had carefully built the tempo through individual satyagraha itself. Therefore, there were organizations which were developing their propaganda, revamping their approach. However, government was in no mood to either negotiate with the Congress or to wait for the movement to be formally launched. Before the Congress could even start the movement, the government struck hard, and on 9th August morning, Gandhi and other leaders were arrested, taken to unknown destinations. Congress was again declared illegal, as it was after in the second phase of the CDM in 1932. Now, the first feature is going to be public rampaging, public violence. The news of these arrests will leave the country aghast, and spontaneous movements will start everywhere. Left leaderless, without any organization, people reacted in any manner possible. They attacked symbols of authority, hoisted national flag on public buildings. Satyagrahis offered themselves to arrest. Bridges were blown up. Students responded by not going to school and colleges, by what is called striking in schools and colleges, participating in processions, writing and distributing illegal news sheets, and acting as couriers for underground activities. Underground networks were needed because as soon as you come into Linlithgow's eye, you will be banned or you will be arrested. So everything used to happen at the low scale where everybody is distributing very important instructions. Students used to carry them because students would not be suspected about. Thereafter, workers in Ahmedabad, Bombay, Jamshedpur, Ahmednagar, Pune, all will go for strike. All over the country, hartal, strikes, schools and colleges, demonstrations, lathi charges, people were fired upon, angered by police repression. They will also have violent moments in that regard. They attacked every symbol which represented the police or the British itself, police stations, post offices, railway stations. Madras and Bengal were affected the most. And now you see in South India, Madras presidency is going to now become an epicenter for that. Now, very simply, understand this point. It's an INC, it's not an INC session, it's an INC resolution. Govaliya tank was not a session. Simple point of the matter is, you tell me, was this possible in 1920s, in 1930s? The way everybody responded in their way, in the way they have to and they should. And the answer to that question is no. People did not know what to do. A lot of people remained loyal. Now it's not about being loyal. It's about destruction of British authority everywhere. Now, very simply, this will be supported by what is called underground activities, socialists, Subhash Chandra Bose's forward bloc, Gandhi's Ashramites, along with in Bombay, Pune, Satara, Baroda, and Gujarat, all will come together and create networks. Usha Mehta will create the underground radio in Bombay. JP and Ramnandan Mishra will then escape from Hazaribagh jail to go to the Nepal border. Jayaprakash Narayan will form what is called the Azad Dasta in the terrains of Nepal and operate from there. So they were now going to Nepal and operating from there. The very simple. See, why was individual Sarkar not possible? Successful because it was individual. But in a way, it created the tempo for this. Thereafter, Ram Manohar Lohia, Aruna Asaf Ali, Byju Patnaik, Chota Bhai Patnaik, Achyut Patwardhan, Sucheta Kriplani, R.P. Goenka, all emerged as very important new leaders. This is called the new cadre, the new leadership. These new leadership of Indian nationalism. They were previously not important, but now in the absence of the main leadership, they have emerged important. This phase, popular morale was kept up, and more than that, different commands, guidance, and instructions were given to the people. Arms and ammunition was also distributed so that the revolutionaries could also act in making sure that the pressure on the British was there. The third most interesting feature of the Quit India, and the last major feature, is that there were parallel governments which emerged. For example, in Balia, a person called Chittu Pandey, he will go and kill every Britisher who is going to be there in Balia, and thereafter he will capture power. So he was a Congress leader, he will technically capture power, and in Balia, the British had no authority only. In Tamluk, there will be a Jatiya Sarkar which will be formed. It will do even cyclone relief, sanction grants to poor, and here Vidyut Bahinis, wherein women are going to protect this Tamluk government. And for close to 3 years, the Tamluk government was not even taken back by the British. In Satara, you have the Parti Sarkar by Y.B. Chavan and Nani Patil. Please remember these names. This is the longest. Satara was free of British rule for close to 4 years. So you have to remember the the names, because very, very important comes in match the following. There's also the ruler of Audh, who actually became a Gandhian and wrote a new constitution, which was in Gandhi's name itself. Village libraries, Nayanandan Mandals, everything emerged. And now Gandhi marriages, Gandhi and Raj was proclaimed everywhere. But for you, 1, 2, 3, these are very, very important generally. Now, popular participation was very high. Youth, women, workers, everybody was involved, and even peasants. So peasant, workers, women, youth, all were involved. Aruna Asaf Ali, Sucheta Kriplani, Usha Mehta, very, very important women personalities at this point of time. But everywhere we see there is a beautiful wave of nationalism in that regard. So government officials belonging to lower levels in police will also not listen to the orders of the British. So there's an erosion of governmental loyalty. Muslims helped in this movement itself. There was a lot of violence also happening, but a lot of, in a sense, unity also, wherein Muslims gave underground activists shelter. Even the biggest feature was that between this period of 1942-43, no communal clashes during the movement. Previously was there, after it, but not during the movement. However, because the USSR was on the side of the British, the communists will stay away, socialists will stay away, and princely states will also not take part in a big way. So, before I move to governmental repression and INA and the nature, is this making sense? Is this making sense? That very simply, there's a new wave of nationalism, there's a new brand of nationalism which has emerged generally. Yes, it's a 1857 level scale, but at an all India level in that regard. Very beautifully done. Okay. Bose is not in India. I will discuss that with you when I'm back. Now, government is going to repress, is going to show a lot of what we call as ruthlessness, lathi charged, fired upon, tear gas. 10,000 people died in this movement. Press was muzzled. The military was used everywhere. Police secret services were used everywhere. Even villages which were technically rebelling, they were heavily fined. They were burnt. Torture was there. British under Linlithgow used maximum force to suppress this movement. Now, do you get the point? Why do I say that Linlithgow is the worst viceroy? People say Curzon is, people say Dalhousie is, people say this, that. But Linlithgow is considered the worst of the worst viceroys because he made sure that the British were never ready to listen. And he was not doing it on his purpose. This is all Churchill. That bastard called Churchill, he actually said to Linlithgow, do whatever you want to do. He is fighting for democracy, and in India, he literally said that you do rampage. You do rampage, you destroy anything possible. That is the point. That is the point of hypocrisy. That is the point of irony in this story. Churchill says that I am protecting democracy, and in India, they were stifling, technically suffocating democracy. So, as much as anybody tells you that Churchill is a hero who saved us from Hitler, Churchill for Indians was the worst of the worst. So, very simply, he made sure that in India, quit India was in a way stifled and suffocated as quickly as possible. Once Churchill was asked the fact that because of British rule in 1943, there will be a major famine which is going to happen. If you remember, the famine of 1943, which is going to happen in Bengal, close to 10 lakh people will be killed instantly. All because all the food was taken away from India to supply it to the British troops. And Churchill was asked by the British media that what do you have to say about the famines which are happening in India? People are dying of hunger in India. So Churchill said that if so many people are dying of hunger, how is Gandhi alive? That if people are so poverty stricken, there is no food, then how is that Gandhi is alive? Why hasn't he died? This was his approach towards Indian nationalism and Indian. That is why this period between 36 to 43 is considered the worst. Because here Linlithgow embodied the apathy, the indifference of Churchill throughout this period. And that is shown in the way they responded to the national movement at this point of time. So if I have to sum up the nature of this movement, all India level movement, we can say it for sure. Strongest in Bihar, then UP and Maharashtra. British authority disappeared in a lot of parts of UP, Bihar, West Bengal, Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and Maharashtra. Student agitation and peasant movement again very strong in Bihar and UP sector. Movement theoretically was led by Gandhi, theoretically, but in practice was in the hands of the revolutionaries and local people. Gandhi did not actually change his stance. He did not stop it. He did not advocate it. He did not say anything because he was not in a position to do anything. So very simply, previously Gandhi would have stopped it, but because people don't know where he is, so he was not in a position to do it. So very simply, let's summarize it and then I can give you a break because I can see your faces. I understand. But this section is over. There was no point giving a break in between Quit India. Can I give you the summary of Quit India, what you write in the examination, and then we can take a break? Yes? Is this making sense? Okay, great. As I told you, multiple small topics. Again, that small topic which we've discussed till this point. Great. Okay. So let's talk about Quit India. Now I'm summarizing for you. And thereafter, these are the points which are going to go into the examination. What are the features of the Quit India movement? Now, first is the Govalia, no, we'll say Quit India resolution. Quit India resolution, 8th August 1942. British, or rather Gandhi's instruction to the people, governmental indifference and repression, 9th August becomes a leaderless movement. But in response to that, you have new leadership, women's leadership and participation. Thereafter, peasant and workers' participation, student participation. Then you also have parallel governments, public rampage, culmination of nationalistic move, rather we'll say culmination of Gandhian methodology. You will also have in that sense the people attacked government symbols, masses now controlled the movement. Underground activities. Right? Make sense? You can write two lines on each one of them. Yes? Okay. So, in this sense, I close this topic. I leave you on this slide. We'll come back at 8:2 and we'll take the story forward. What we come after, what we do after this is INA. INA, Mohan Singh, Indian Independence League, Imphal campaign. We will now talk about Subhash Chandra Bose, who was not there in India at this point of time. Right? So, I will see you at 8:2. Consolidate everything in your mind. I'll give you a mains question when I'm back. Don't worry. Prince, indifference. Welcome back. Okay. You wanted a question. Uh, the Quit India movement exhibited features which were both unique and a culmination of the national movement. Elucidate. $250 words. Can you write this answer? That is Anshika, good enough. That's good enough. Either way, it's good enough. Okay. Now, see, it will take time to write answers initially. We'll have this conversation tomorrow also. It will take time to write answers initially. There is no magic potion or medicine which you can eat and you start to write quickly. There's nothing like that. You have to practice. The more you write, your speed is going to become better. But my basic concern with all of you is going to be, please don't compromise on grammar. Please don't compromise on aesthetics. Don't start to write in a language which you only understand. Right? So you write this question, you talk about the features which are unique also, new leadership, but you also have to conclude by saying that all of these are basically culmination of Gandhian politics and Gandhian nationalism in that regard. So it can take, see, if you're writing 14 minutes, 15 minutes, 1 hour, you have to come closer to 8 to 9 minutes. That's the basic point. But if you're starting with 14, 15 minutes, that's very good. If you're starting with 1 hour, you have to practice more. That's the basic point. Okay. Plain paper. I've seen a lot of you've written answers, but somehow you write it in such indifference like the British that it makes become very, very hard to even understand what you're writing. So you have to develop this concept of writing. Understand one thing. Prelims is about, you have to send it to IAS Live, not to me, iaslive@byju's.com. You want to send it to target IAS, that also works. Now, the simple point, what I'm trying to argue, how to remove grammatical errors. Again, you have to write. There is, see, prelims is about everything is given in the examination. You just have to fill up that small dot. Mains is the difficult part because mains is about basically writing skill. Everybody knows the answer to this question. It's about how you write it down. So if you are a beginner, does not matter. Everybody starts somewhere. So you have to, it's like driving a car. You have to learn first the gears. Slowly you will come on the highway. Can't start to drive on the highway first. First have to learn how to take baby steps. Spellings mistakes, grammatical mistakes. See, if you're doing spelling mistakes, you know that you're doing spelling mistakes. If you're doing grammatical mistakes, you're doing it because you're trying to do it under a certain time period. That should not be your concern here. Please understand this point. The more spelling mistakes you do, the more grammatical mistakes you do, the more specific purpose you are giving to the examiner to take away marks from you. Write in the right way possible, write in a language which makes sense, and in the right handwriting. Please understand this. So very simply, and if you are getting out of a 10-mark question 4 to 5 marks, then that is actually quite good. You will never get more than 50%. Further, if you're getting from 15, you are getting 7.5, 6 to 7.5, that is equally good. Simple point is 50% is what you are going to get. That is by design. That is how UPSC marks. This is not your school level examination. This is not CBSE. This is not your state board that you're going to get 99.9%. So please understand that 50% is considered very, very good. So we have been taught in schools that this 90, 80, no, you will not get this much. You will get 50%, 55%. That is more than enough. People top at 55, 56%. Can I move to the next section? Okay, perfect. Now, before we go to the INA, we have to discuss three things. We've discussed Quit India. We have to discuss C. Rajagopalachari formula, Desai-Liaquat Pact, and very simply this concept of what is called communal consciousness. Now, please pay attention. See, one thing is very, very clear that by 1942-43, things were clear about the politics which the British were doing. The Muslim League came into existence in 1906. Until 1936, it was nothing. Till 1936, it was nothing. It was only after the elections of 1936 that Muslim League had to change its strategy. And it became more and more vocal about this concept that the Muslims are represented by Muslim League and their propaganda in that regard. Between 1936 to 1942, what has happened is that in 1940 itself, the concept of Pakistan comes into existence, what is called the two-nation theory. The two-nation theory is that Muslims will never get justice in one nation. So therefore, two nations are needed, the need for Pakistan. So by 1940-42, one thing was very, very clear that the Muslim League now had the power Muslim League had the power to stall, or we should say to delay and block transfer of power. Why? Because the issue of minorities was now going to be an issue. So the INC basically is going to pay for its arrogance in 1936. By 1942, the INC was very, very clear that basically the Muslim League now has the power to block and delay the transfer of power. And therefore, by 1942 itself, now the INC tried to go into agreements with Jinnah, or go into agreements with the Muslim League, that you do what you want to do. You want a separate nation, okay? But when the British transfer power, don't block it. This is why the basic point is that the Lahore session of the Muslim League 1940, very simply, they had already argued that we need geographically contiguous areas where Muslims are in majority, and only when these areas are going to be independent states, that they act in autonomous sovereign way and adequate safeguards are there, then only the Muslim League will stop. Basically, this is the starting point of what we call as the concept of Pakistan. And as it is, by 1943, they were observing Pakistan Day. The concept of Pakistan had become very, very standard. More than that, Muslim League now could block Indian independence or the national movement generally and delay transfer of power. So therefore, the Congress will try 2 times to go into an agreement with Jinnah, both times rejected, that don't block nationalistic struggle, don't block transfer of power. And these two are called C. Raja Gopalachari formula and Desai Liaquat Pact. Both never fully materialized. Both were endorsed by Gandhi, and both were basically Congress attempt to pacify the Muslim League. And more than that, it was based on the idea that Muslim League should not block transfer of power. So therefore, for example, what is the C. Rajagopalachari formula? You need to know. So the C. Rajagopalachari formula, which was thought about in 1944. So I'm going in forward in the story because I have to come back to the INA. It was a tacit acceptance of the fact that Pakistan was going to happen. And under CR formula, what was argued, what is called Rajaji formula, that Muslim League should endorse Congress demand for independence. League should cooperate with the Congress in forming provisional government. More than that, by at the end of the war, the Muslim majority areas, northwest and northeast, should decide by plebiscite. Plebiscite means voting, whether they want a separate state or not. In case they accept a partition, joint center should be there with defense, commerce and communication together. And all of this would only stand if England transferred all of the powers to India. Now tell me one thing, looking at this basic formula, do you think Jinnah would agree to it? Would Jinnah agree to this? No, because of this clause. Because if people are going to be asked if they want partition, people were never going to say that. So Jinnah wanted partition, people did not want it. So when it came to Jinnah's stance, he straightforward said that, yes, you have accepted the two-nation theory, but he only wanted the Muslims of Northwest and Northeast to do voting, not entire population. And he also did not like the concept of common center. So while the Congress was ready to cooperate with League for independence, the point was that the League did not care about the independence itself. That is the basic point. Jinnah never cared about independence. He only cared about himself and the fact that he wanted a separate nation. And the simple point is that even V.D. Savarkar is going to condemn the CR formula by saying that you're giving too much power to Jinnah. But there will be another attempt which will be there, and that is called the Desai Liaquat Pact. This is by Bhulabhai Desai, who was the leader of the Congress party in the Central Legislative Assembly, and Liaquat Ali Khan, who was the deputy leader of the Muslim League in the assembly itself. And the basic point was that, again, please support the concept of independence. Equal number of people will be nominated by Congress and League to the Constituent Assembly or to the interim government itself. 20% seats we will reserve for minorities. However, never this settlement reached because Congress and League now did not want parity. League did not want parity. It wanted a separate nation altogether. So before I go to the INA, one thing should be very, very clear, that by 1943, 44, by 42 only, it was clear that Jinnah did not want a solution. He wanted Pakistan. He knew that any process in which India remains together, he would never have any power or proper power in that regard. As it is, a common center would mean that the fact that because Muslim majority is not going to stand in the center, it will automatically not make any sense. So he wanted a separate nation in which he could rule. And he got that in that regard. But that there's a story to that, which I will discuss with you when we'll discuss cabinet mission. Simple point of the matter is, Jinnah was made into a hero by the British. Jinnah is not the single-handed reason for partition of India. The British is. Jinnah was nobody. Jinnah was actually no one. He was created by the British. So if somebody has to be blamed for the partition, it is not Jinnah. Jinnah's power was based on British or colonialism. So understand the root cause. Don't understand the effect. When you say that Jinnah is the reason for partition, then you're understanding the effect. You're not understanding the cause. Cause is Lithgow made Jinnah what he was. If the British would never have listened to Jinnah, then what would be Jinnah's stance? It is that minority issue had become a way of undercutting the INC itself. Right? Can I move to Indian National Army, INA? Come on. Yes? Okay, perfect. Now, INA, there's a separate timeline. 1941, 1942, 1943, 1944. And by 1945, things had changed. Now, what is the way in which? Now, I'm again giving you the basic overview of INA. Everything else is written in the PPT. So, it is the year 1941. Japan enters into the Second World War. And now Japan rampages through the Southeast Asian sector. Wherever the British were, they used to leave their post and leave. And in Malaya, one such post, there was an officer and his name was Captain Mohan Singh. Captain Mohan Singh. Now, rather than choosing to retreat with the British, he chooses to stay back and he wanted to negotiate with the Japanese. Now, Mohan Singh thought that at the end of the day, the Japanese also want the same thing and Indians also want the same thing, which is British authority gone. So when the Japanese entered where Mohan Singh was, Mohan Singh says to the Japanese, and the Japanese, the general is called, his name is General Fujiwara, and he argues to the Japanese that, see, we hate the British, you hate the British. We want India, you also want India. So why not incorporate Indians into your army so that you can go to India in a much simpler way? So the argument was that you will eminently go to India for sure because the British are sitting in India. You don't know the terrain, you don't know the languages. So why not create a wing within the Japanese army which can help you in the Indian struggle or Indian capture in that regard? So what Mohan Singh basically did was that he was able to negotiate with the Japanese an arrangement in which that whatever prisoners of war, POWs, prisoners of war, which were Indian, rather than killing them or rather than deporting them, all Indian POWs were given to Mohan Singh. And Mohan Singh, therefore, then envisaged and created the context in which he created the Indian National Army, which is called the INA. The INA was created by Mohan Singh in consonance with the Japanese, and the Japanese very simply understood what Mohan Singh was trying to say, and it made sense for them to have a small contingent within their army, which was an Indian contingent. And in a way, Mohan Singh did two very important things. First, he protected the Indians from Japanese ruthlessness, because if he had not taken these men as the concept of what we call as the Indian National Army, the Japanese would have for sure killed each and every Indian they would have actually found in the Southeast Asian sector. And there were quite a lot that was. Close to 20 to 40,000 Indians were actually handed over to Mohan Singh. and Mohan Singh will be able to actually get 16,400 or 500 to agree to become part of the Indian National Army. The others who wanted to go back to India, they were allowed to go back to India. Now, very simply, Mohan Singh created the INA as like a speed breaker or like a shock absorber which could basically absorb the Japanese shock and in a way also help the Indian cause. More than that, in a way, Mohan Singh single-handedly is the reason why the Japanese did not invade in 1942 but in 1944. Because he said that I will tell you the right time to invade, and therefore, in a way, every mitigation which we see, the mitigation of the British, the mitigation of what we call as the Japanese, was Mohan Singh's main important role. The INA was able to absorb the Japanese threat. This is a very important point you need to understand, that this is going to be able to absorb the Japanese threat. Their approach will be changed by Mohan Singh. So he is, in that sense, very, very important. Very, very important. He bought us time, and in that regard, he made sure that the Japanese treated Indians in the right way in the Southeast Asian sector itself. Now, with 16,500 men, the INA was now formally endorsed, created by 1942. Different battalions were created. And now another rock star of our Indian nationalism, who was sitting in Japan at this point of time, Rash Bihari Bose, gets to know that Mohan Singh has created the INA. So now Rash Bihari Bose calls Mohan Singh to Bangkok. And in what is called the Bangkok Conference, Rash Bihari Bose will create a body called the Indian Independence League. And in the Indian Independence League, the INA will be made a part of it. And Rash Bihari Bose was actually made the president of this. And it is at the Bangkok conference that Rash Bihari Bose will say to same Rash Bihari Bose, Harding Bongbing, same Rash Bihari Bose Gadar Party. The fact of the matter is Rash Bihari Bose is now going to give a call to a very important personality. He will say to Subhash Chandra Bose that your army is waiting, your league is waiting. Come and join us in Singapore, and you can take the what we call as the control over the INA in the Indian Independence League. INA is waiting for its leader. Now, in the background, Subhash Chandra Bose itself had changed his orientation. In 1941, Subhash Chandra Bose had gone into what we call as house arrest. He had been put in by the British into house arrest. He will, in disguise, basically evade the British. He will then travel to Karachi. From Karachi, then he will go to USSR, to Russia. But unfortunately, by the time he reaches Russia, Russia is going to become an ally of the British in the Second World War. And therefore, he will not get any help from the Russians in order to get Indian independence. So as soon as he gets to know that Russia has become pro-British, he will then travel to Germany, and then he will meet Hitler at Berlin. In Berlin, he will also, in a sense, establish a secret organization and a radio which used to broadcast till India the fact that Subhash Chandra Bose was working for Indian independence. When he will meet Hitler, to Hitler he will say that we both have the common cause, which is the destruction of the British. You need to help me. You need to give me the power, or you need to give me the Nazi army, so that I can get India independence. So in that sense, in that moment, Hitler will say to Bose that there is an Indian contingent which has been created by the Japanese. I will be happy to transport you to Japan and then to Singapore. And from Berlin, he will go to the Japanese in a submarine. And thereafter, in 1943, after traveling from Karachi to Russia via land route, to thereafter to Germany, then to Singapore, in 1943, Subhash Chandra Bose is going to reach Singapore, and he will thereafter take the leadership of the INA, and he will now call it the Azad Hind Fauj, which is INA, and a new government will be established, a parallel government, the real government of India, which is called the Azad Hind Sarkar. Now he will start to reorganize the INA. The INA will thereafter start to create battalions. You will have the Rani Jhansi battalion, you will have the Gandhi battalion, you will have the Nehru battalion, you will have the Bose battalion. Mohan Singh was given the most important role as the commander-in-chief under Subhash Chandra Bose itself. And what is going to happen is that by 1944, they will shift their headquarters to Rangoon in Burma. But now there will be a tactical mistake which will be done by the INA, in the sense that from Rangoon, and after Andaman and Nicobar Islands was actually captured by the Japanese, it will be handed over to the INA and the Azad Hind Sarkar. Now Subhash Chandra Bose will broadcast into India the fact that the INA was waiting on the eastern front of India, and it was the army of the people of India. And the day Gandhi is going to say that you need to come and give India independence, that day INA is going to come. And in that speech, in that moment, he said that Gandhi, who is the father of the nation, is also the leader, and this is the army of Gandhi in that regard. But what he will do is that if he will broadcast the fact that they were on the eastern front, who else can listen to this broadcast? The British. So now what is going to happen is that when in 1945, and by this point of time, the tide was turning when it came to the Second World War, when the Japanese will plan what is called the Imphal campaign, wherein the Japanese and the INA would enter from the Imphal sector in northeastern sector and then fight the British in Assam and reach Bengal. This plan in a way was leaked in 1944 only, because that is what the INA had already said on the Azad Hind radio. Now the British were technically waiting. More than that, the Japanese showed their true color in the Imphal campaign. Mohan Singh initially had argued that 2 lakh men are needed. They said we only need 20,000. And when it came to taking the Indians on the Imphal campaign itself, racial discrimination was done. Japanese did not even give water and food supplies to the Indian battalion. In the end, they took an odd 3,000, 4,000 men with them, men and women with them, and they did not even give supplies. They humiliated the Indians in this campaign. So the morale was already very, very down. And as it is, when they will meet the British in 1945 in Imphal, the British will very quickly subdue and the Japanese will retreat, and the INA thereafter will be caught in Imphal. But because only 2,000 men were caught, there were still men who were left. And as it is, by September of 1945, Japan is going to surrender, and the INA will have to surrender with the Japanese. And basically, all Indian men and women who were part of the INA, they will be basically surrendering in the Singapore, in the Malayan sector. and now they will be brought to India to create the spectacle called the INA trials, which I will tell you how it backfired on the British quite heavily. But the simple point is, this is the basic story of the INA. Created by Mohan Singh in 1941, Rasbihari Bose joins in 1942, India Independence League. 1943, Subhash Chandra Bose joins, and thereafter 44, 43, 44, they have positive development. 45, it was the Japanese who betrayed the INA itself. Make sense? Basic points. The INA's major station is in Myanmar, right? Rangoon. Yeah, the Japanese did not turn out to be reliable in that sense. Are we clear till this point? Rasbihari Bose is again going to evade. Is going to again evade. Right. So very simply, I'm going to repeat this story from the PPT. If you still have an issue, I will again repeat it in the end. Can I do that? Are we following the basic story? Which is 41 creation, 42 Rasbihari Bose, 43 Subhash Chandra Bose, 44 Rangoon, thereafter Imphal campaign, failure, and then everybody is going to get caught in Rangoon itself with the Japanese retreating. Japan was not a reliable power. That's it. Okay. So let's try to understand the story now in detail. The idea of the INA was first conceived in the Malayan Peninsula by Mohan Singh, and British officer of the British Indian Army. He decided not to join the retreating British Army and instead turned towards the Japanese for help. Major Fujiwara and a person called Gyani Pritam Singh helped Captain Singh in setting it up. Gyani Pritam Singh knew Japanese in that sense. The Japanese handed over all the Indian POWs to Singh, who tried to recruit them for INA. After fall of Singapore, Mohan Singh got close to 45,000 POWs in his sphere of influence. Now, by 1942, out of these 40,000 men, most of them were ready to join the INA, and the INA intended to go into action only on the invitation of the INC and the people of India. It was also seen that by many as a check against the misconduct of the Japanese against the Indians in Southeast Asia, and also a bulwark or a speed breaker against a future Japanese occupation of India. The outbreak of the Quit India movement gave a flip to the INA as well, and in September of 1942, the first division of the INA was created by 16,300 men. With the Japanese contemplating an Indian invasion, the idea of an armed wing of INA seemed to be relevant to them. Thereafter, 1942, Indian Independence League will be set up by Rasbihari Bose in Tokyo, and he will then hold what is called the Bangkok Conference. He will be elected as the president. INA will be appointed commander-in-chief of the INA. Mohan Singh will be appointed as the commander-in-chief of the INA. Subhash Chandra Bose will be invited to come and take control of this army and this Sarkar or this government. However, there were serious differences which will develop between the INA and the Japanese, because the Japanese only wanted a force of 2,000 men, while Mohan Singh wanted 2 lakh men. Now, meanwhile, in January of 1941, Subhash Chandra Bose had escaped from India under house arrest by the British, approached the Russian leaders for help against the British. When he was actually leaving, he had taken the name Ziauddin and was helped by a person called Bhagat Ram. But when in 41 Soviet Union is going to become pro-British, he will go to Germany. He will meet Hitler under the pseudonym Orlando Mortaza or Orlando Mazzotta, basically an Italian name. And he said that we will form the Freedom Army. From Dresden in Germany, he will operate an office. The Jai Hind slogan from Free India Center was going to reach or will be broadcasted for the first time, and he will reach Japan in January of 1943, or January and February of 1943. So he's traveled from USSR to Germany, now to Japan, and Jai Hind is going to be a very important thing which is going to broadcast over the Azad Hind Radio. Thereafter, on 21st October 1943, he will set up the provisional government, also known as Arize Hukumat-e-Azad Hind or Azad Hind Sarkar in Singapore. And this government was even recognized by the Axis powers. H.C. Chatterjee was the finance minister, A.M.A. Iyer was broadcasting, Lakshmi Swaminathan was women's department, Subhash Chandra Bose was seen as the most important member and the towering leader of this movement or of this army. Now, the famous slogan, "Give me blood, I will give you freedom," was given in Malaya by Subhash Chandra Bose. There were multiple battalions which were created, wherein the Gandhi Battalion, Azad Battalion, Nehru Battalion, Subhash Battalion, Rani Jhansi Battalion were created. And very simply, by November of 1943, Japan handed over the administration of Andaman Nicobar Islands, which he renamed to Shahid Dweep and Swaraj Dweep. And recently, the government of India changed the name of Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which were named after British officers such as Havelock and all, into Shahid Dweep and Swaraj Dweep. That is the current affairs part here. So, very simply, what had we started? 1941, Mohan Singh had created the INA. Thereafter, 1942, Raj Bihari Bose created the Indian Independence League, and the INA gets connected to it. 1941 to 42, Subhash Chandra Bose traveled from Russia to then Germany, then to Japan, and then to Singapore. And by 1943, they are at their highest point, end of 1943, because he's given his most important war cry, "Give me blood, I will give you freedom." तुम मुझे खून दो, मैं तुम्हें आजादी दूंगा. And the fact of the matter is that he had now properly created a certain type of administration within the INA and the Azad Hind Sarkar, as it was called. However, by January of 1944, the headquarters had shifted to Rangoon. The war cry, "Chalo Delhi," was given. In April of 1944, Azad Hind Bank was also inaugurated. In July 1944, Bose asked Gandhi for his blessings as India's last war of independence. He was the first to call Gandhi father of nation, and it was done over Azad Hind Radio. However, by telling the people of India that he was coming towards the Eastern Front, the problem was that this was automatically going to give the details to the British. So the problem is going to start from 1945 or 1944 end, wherein one INA battalion commanded by Shah Nawaz was allowed to accompany the Japanese army to the Indo-Burma front in what is called the Imphal campaign. However, discriminatory treatment by the Japanese, including denying rations, arms, and giving menial work to the Indians, this demoralizes the INA itself. The Imphal campaign is going to be a major failure. The British were waiting for them. And thereafter, when the Japanese will start to retreat, the INA will also will fail to, or in a sense, the hope of liberating the nation will fall with them. And the retreat will continue till mid 1945. And once Southeast Asia is surrendered back to the British, the INA members will also surrender in that regard. So this is the basic story. This is the basic story of the whole INA concept. 1941, Lakshmi, pay attention. I'm repeating the third time now. 1941, Mohan Singh will establish it. 1942, Raj Bihari Bose India Independence League. And thereafter, 1943, you will have Subhash Chandra Bose joining it. 44, Rangoon. 45, Imphal campaign. Thereafter, the British take over and the INA members get caught or are surrendering to the British because of the Japanese retreat. Now, what type of question can come? First type of question can come is the chronology of events which I've told you. Wherein, when did Subhash Chandra Bose reach? Where did the conference happen? What is India Independence League? Who was related to it? Second type of question could be that how did the INA get formed? So are you in position to write both of these answers? Yes, Gandhi will never consent to it, but the point is that they are appropriating Gandhi as their leader, because Gandhi is considered a very important leader at this point of time. Okay. The Japanese don't get angry over access powers. Gandhi is the father of nation. No, see, the Japanese don't care. The Japanese don't care too much. When they really cared, then the demoralization is going to happen. Japan is our vending country. See, Vivek, they've already reached the Burma sector. So you enter from Burma only into the Imphal sector. So basic geography. Now, very simply, see, again, please pay attention. There's nothing here. There's this basic timeline. 41, Mohan Singh. 42, Bangkok Conference, India Independence League. 43, Subhash Chandra Bose reaches Singapore, Azad Hind Sarkar and Fauj. 44, highest point, father of nation. 45, Imphal campaign, and they lose. Nobody is asking you micro details here. Please understand this point. Nobody is going to say write a short note on the INA. Even when you have to do that, you have to write all of this. So don't go into micro events. If the basic story is clear, then this section is over. Is it clear? You want a mains question? I'll give it to you. That's a separate issue altogether. But the simple point is, there's a lot of people think that INA was created by Subhash Chandra Bose. But the answer is not that. It was Mohan Singh who created it. He created it in the Malayan sector. Subhash Chandra Bose later joined it. So are you getting my point? Because there is a lot of misinformation. That is why I'm trying to give you the basic understanding. Now, you want a question, I'll give you a question, and then we have to discuss about the mysterious death of Subhash Chandra Bose. First, you want a question, I'll give it to you. See, the INA's formation was both a master stroke and an important safeguard against the Japanese. Comment. 150 words. Are you getting why I'm calling it a master stroke and an important safeguard? It's a master stroke because at the end of the day, the Japanese and the British interests are inlined, and that way the POWs will not be killed by the Japanese. And at the same point of time, it's an important safeguard against the Japanese, because now Mohan Singh can delay the Japanese invasion of India. So are you getting the question? The question is not asking you where in Rangoon, where is radio, what now. Questions are theoretical. Mains questions are always theoretical. So if you understand the concept of INA, then you understand this question also. So very simply, INA's role in the national movement is based on the concept of it delaying the Japanese invasion, becoming a speed breaker to the Japanese coming to India. Make sense? Can I talk about his death and then INA trials? Very important that way. I want everybody's consent. Okay. Now, when we talk about Netaji's death, now we last know only one thing, which that in August of 1945, he boarded a plane in Tokyo, and it is believed that that plane crashed over Taiwan. Yes, Rashmi. Now, there have been 3 committees which have been constituted to check if Netaji was actually on that plane or it is a myth. Now, the first 2 say the same thing. Shah Nawaz Committee and Justice Khosla Commission, that very simply the plane crashed and he died in the plane itself, or in the plane crash. Now, in 2005, Justice Mukherjee said that Bose did not die in the plane crash, but he would have died by now by old age. But obviously, by 2005, obviously, he would have died by old age. So there was nothing very unique which 2005 commission said. If you look at the what we call as the INA papers, if you've been following the uh, current affairs, you would know that the our Prime Minister released the papers related to the INA recently in the National Archives, and I've gone through those papers generally. And if you go into this issue of Netaji's death, the last recorded thing of the INA is this only, which is Netaji boarded the plane. Thereafter, the INA surrendered, so everything then goes into British records. The simple point of the matter is that there's this concept of the Gumnami Baba, wherein he changed his disguise, he operated in India, and he, however, did not reveal himself. The concept of him dying in the plane crash, there's a lot of speculation here. Simple point of the matter is that you're not expecting a question from this area that what happened to Netaji. But the simple point of the matter is that he would have survived. The simple reason why he needed to even fake his death is because if Netaji was caught along with the INA, then the INA trials would have been totally different. And more than that, his the British would have treated this whole incident in a different way in that regard. So, in a way, he not getting caught was important. I hope and I believe that he faked his death, but we have no proof for that. We only have proof for him dying in the plane crash. He will board it. He will board it in the Malayan Peninsula in Singapore. For Tokyo, it will crash over Taiwan. Can we close the INA story and move to the INA trials? Yes? Okay, perfect. Now let's talk about the INA trials. Now, listen to me first. Now, the British wanted to, Netaji name he got when he was in Singapore from the army itself. Now, see, the British now wanted to masterstroke by Mohan Singh, not by the British. It was a masterstroke by Mohan Singh. Now, the British wanted to create a spectacle. British wanted to create a spectacle that all INA members will be brought into India and they would be tried for treason, that they did treason, or what we call as they enticed violence against the king, sedition, treason, or basically betraying the British in that regard. And very simply, three important generals were representing the INA. What were the names? Come on, tell me. You should know it already. Last name, come on. And come on. You know his name. Not Mohan Singh. Yes, very good. Ironically, they represented the three religions of India. P.K. Sehgal, Hindu, Shah Nawaz, Muslim, and G.S. Dhillon, Sikh. Now, these three generals had been given initial sentence, death sentence was given. Initial sentence was death sentence. Now, the British were not satisfied. The British But like, what's the point of giving an army court decision without not letting the people see how we humiliate these three members and the other members of the INA? And very foolishly, very foolishly, Mohan Singh will never be caught. Neither Raj Bihari Bose will be caught. Never. These three members will never be caught. Subhash Chandra Bose, Mohan Singh, and Raj Bihari Bose never caught. Now, the British foolishly will say that we will hold the trial of them in the Red Fort. Why Red Fort? Why Red Fort? Come on, you know the answer. Who was tried beforehand in Red Fort? Yes, very good. To bring back the memories of the 1857 revolt, Bahadur Shah Zafar had been tried in the Red Fort. So basically, they were now trying to represent that we, the British, are trying the INA treasonous generals, and we will create a spectacle of how we will technically give death sentence to these three in front of the people of India. But the British basically lost the plot, because this was not the 1857 India. This was 1945. And as it is, the people were extremely fed up. So when they will bring the INA members to India to try them, the INA members were heroes. Literally were heroes, until today are heroes. People revered them. People celebrated them. Very simply, this was the biggest blunder, which now the new Viceroy, Wavell, will do. Linlithgow was recalled back in 43 itself, and now in 45, Wavell will technically try to create this spectacle, take them to Red Fort. Rather, lakhs of people will emerge in Red Fort to see a glimpse of these three heroes. Further, the INA trials, everybody needs to be represented by lawyers. Now, Jawaharlal Nehru, who had given up his lawyership during the non-cooperation movement, will now take up again. He was a barrister at the end of the day, will take up his black coat, and the INC will represent the INA members. There will be so much pressure which will be created on the commander-in-chief of the British Army that their death sentence had to be commuted. Because it was believed that if they were given death sentence, India would burn and the British would burn with them. So very simply, they were actually acquitted and left. They were actually not even touched by the British. This is going to happen with all the members of the INA from the rank and file, the INC, the Muslim League, the different liberals, different groups will come together. In a way, the British did a biggest blunder because it united India. They united India in such a way that the INA now became the symbol of unity. INA Day was celebrated. INA Week was celebrated. There was a fund which was created in which every INA member was given some money. They were given employment so that they could come back to the Indian society as heroes. It literally backfired like anything. And therefore, INA trials was the first instance in which British could see that their power was fading. That they could say anything to the people and nobody was going to listen to them. There will be clashes in Bombay. There will be clashes in Calcutta. There will be there will be three major clashes. British authority was fading away, and the INA trials was the first instance of that, in which the British had to reduce, in a way, acquit the three generals, and this Red Fort spectacle now became a symbol of resistance. A symbol of resistance. That is why the importance of giving the first speech at Red Fort, because it is at the Red Fort where Jab Bahadur Shah Zafar was tried. It was at the Red Fort where the INA trials happened, and therefore it was at the Red Fort we declared independence, because that was one symbol which the British always wanted to use. So are you getting the significance? As an event, it is not. See, the point is that these events are small events. For me, what is important is to give you theoretical understanding of why these events together are considered so groundbreaking. INA trials was one, and the other one is called the RIN mutiny. Are we clear why INA is important? INA trials, because INA trials show to the British that their power was never going to stand. So very simply, in November, December of 1945-46, Major General Shahnawaz Khan, Colonel P.K. Sehgal, and Colonel G.S. Dhillon were going to be tried. Were going to be tried. In the trial, there was a major backdrop in which there was a general election which was also being planned, and an election of the Attorney General of India as Norivan P. Engineer as the chief prosecutor. So it's an Indian. They were accused of waging war against the king. They were sentenced to death, but because of the INA trial pressure, the army chief, Claude Ointlick, was forced to commute the sentence in the first trial itself. The defense of the INA prisoners was taken by the Congress. Bhulabhai Desai, K.N. Kadju, Nehru, Asaf Ali appeared in the court. 12, close to 24 other people were also led by Sir Tej Bahadur Sapru, who will then also defend the other members of the INA. The Congress organized a INA relief and inquiry committee, which provided some small sums of money, food to the men on their release, and they tried to give them some employment so that they could support themselves. The Congress authorized the Central INA Fund Committee, the Mayor Fund in Bombay, the AICC, the PCC offices, Sarad Bose to collect funds. The Muslim League, the Communist Party, the Unionist Party, the Akalis, the Justice Party, the Abrars of Rawalpindi, the RSS, the Hindu Mahasabha, Sikh League, everybody came together to protect these three men and the INA, what we call as heroes. Wavell noted that all parties had taken the same line, though the Congress was the most ferocious. So why am I saying that it is a backfire moment? Because in a way, the British united India under the banner of INA. And more than that, this agitation will be getting a lot of public attention, wide publicity, daily editorials, pamphlets, and more than that, INA Day on 12th November, INA Week between 5th and 11th November 1945. And there will also be three clashes which will happen, which is called the winter of 1945-46, the upsurges. In Calcutta on 21st, on 11th February 1946, another clash will happen when Rashid Ali will be given 7-year sentence, and that will later need to be commuted. But the most important consequence of this is on 18th February 1946, which is called the RIN mutiny. Now, just to refresh your memory, if you remember, we started here with the August offer. From August offer to individual satyagrah, to INA Mohan Singh, to Cripps Mission, Quit India and Indian Independence League, to Subhash Chandra Bose reaching to Imphal campaign, to now the INA trials and the war ending, we have come a very long way. Now, there are two topics which we need to discuss: Wavell Conference and RIN mutiny. So, are we able to create a certain chain of thought here, that how are things progressing in that regard? Because as I told you, multiple small events are there, very small events are there. So this is not a very big spectacle, but it is important in that regard. So I hope that you can understand we are marching towards 1946 with the INA trials on our back, And the fact of the matter that the Indian independence was becoming more and more inevitable, but at the same point of time, remember, the partition was also becoming more and more inevitable, and that we will see in the Wavell Conference first, and then the RIN mutiny. Can I do these two topics? Everybody is following me. There's nobody sitting there thinking what is happening. How did India get independence? I'm trying to connect all these events together so that you have a better and more comprehensive understanding of Indian nationalism. You can read this out of any book you know, but in books, there is no chain of thought which is created. Each event is about gradual power taken away from the British. Bit by bit, the power of the British has been removed. And that is what we are trying to do here. From the way the Red Fort trials are going to be basically backfiring on them, which is called the INA trial, to now Wavell, who will confirm that partition is going to happen, to the RIN mutiny, which is considered the biggest in that regard. So I'll first do RIN and then I'll come back to Wavell, because RIN is more important. Then we'll come back to Wavell. Can I do this? Can we do RIN mutiny? Perfect. Now, first things first. It is called RIN mutiny, Royal Indian Navy mutiny. It is not a surf or detergent that you call it RIN. It's not RIN, it is RIN. Right? It has a full form. So please don't ever call it RIN. It is Royal Indian Navy mutiny. The outcome of these trials is nothing but everybody, most of the INA members get acquitted or get very small sentences of 1 to 2 years because they're represented. So it's called the RIN mutiny. Now, why is the RIN mutiny so important and why are we so excited about it? See, who took in Delhi, Kanpur, Jhansi back for the British? The DFF, or in the sense, the Indian Army. It was Indian soldiers who took it back. Very good. Who fired 1650 rounds at Jallianwala Bagh? RIN mutiny is a result, it's an effect of the INA trials. It were the Indian soldiers who were holding the guns who shot at the at the people at Jallianwala Bagh. Thereafter, who surrounded Chandrasekhar Azad in Lucknow? Indian police officers. One of the most important pillar of British Raj was the army. And if I have to make all the pillars, you have the ICS, you have the police, but the thickest of all was the army. This, on top of this, British Raj was there. Without the Indian army or the Indians who were involved in the army, British Raj would never have survived. I think we all can agree to this, that the army had always been the all-weather supporter, friend, or go-to device or apparatus to rule in India. Yes, this was what was used in 1857, this was what was used in Jallianwala Bagh, this was what was used in revolutionaries, this was used everywhere. Now, the Royal Indian Navy mutiny, which started in the Navy, went into the Air Force and later the Army also, was the biggest jolt which came in February of 1946 to the British. Because now the British could not rely on the army itself. On the army itself. The heaviest pillar of the British now eroded. Basically, nationalism had permeated into the army. So, as it is, the police was becoming more and more nationalistic. The ratio of Indian ICS officers by 1942 was 55:45, which is that ICS officers, Indian ICS officers were 55% and 45% were British officers. There's a saying that basically this was also a major cause for the British to change their orientation after 42. By 1942, for 55% of the ICS officers were Indians. So they could not rely on the ICS, they could not rely on the police, but they could have relied on the army. But the RIN mutiny is like a biggest slap to the face of the British, that now the army will also not listen to you. So people believe and randomly say that the British woke up in June of 1947 and said, okay, let's give India independence. No. India was not given independence randomly. It was rather given independence in the context of fading away of their power in India in each and every zone. And the RIN mutiny was the biggest jolt which the British got, which is that they cannot rely on their own armed personnel. So what happened? Are you getting the significance? Are you getting the importance of the mutiny? People don't talk about RIN, but RIN opened the eyes of the British. It was a slap on the face of the British that now your rule cannot survive in India, and you can see within 1 year we will get independence. RIN is that moment in which the major earthquake comes in British imperialism. So what happened? See, the Royal Indian Navy, it has a lot of ships. They're called HMIS Talwar, the ship on which this mutiny happened. What is a mutiny? You already know what is a mutiny. As I said, RIN will start in Navy and then it will go to the Royal Indian Army also and Royal Indian Air Force also. Yes, when the soldiers rebel, it is called a mutiny. So what happens is that a ship called HMIS Talwar was actually stationed at Bombay. It had been deployed in Indonesia previously and was in the Indian Ocean for months on edge. The sailors, or the what we call as the mutineers, or the ratings as they're called, the sailors on the ship, close to 5,000 to 6,000 of them, and basically 2,000 working personnel in that regard, were racially discriminated. They were not given rations, and more than that, they hated the fact that they had to be in the ocean for month on end, and they were deployed across the Indian Ocean world itself. But what happens is that when the Quit India movement happens, what happens is that one of the ratings writes on the sidewall of the ship itself, "Quit India." So he gets arrested. Further, there is a lot of repression which happens with the ratings itself. And what happens is that as soon as the INA trials start, the ratings become more and more and more revolutionary and more radical and nationalized. And when there will be a moment in which a sailor is going to be punished for something which he did not do, people will lose it on the ship and the RIN mutiny will start. They will hoist the Indian flag, the crescent flag, which is Pakistan flag, and the red flag, which is the flag of the communists. And they will say that we rebel. We will not let the British dictate anything. The RIN mutiny will start in Bombay, will spread to Karachi, Visakhapatnam, all major ports of India. Further, the Royal Indian Air Force will also mutiny by saying that we don't want to work for the British. The Royal Indian Army is also going to rebel. And basically, this is going to become an all India level army mutiny, in the sense that nobody wanted to work for the British. They will rebel against the oppression, and such widespread rebellion had only been seen in 1857. However, the difference was they were not trying to bring Bahadur Zafar back, they wanted India. And the RIN mutiny, therefore, is going to jolt the British, and the British will not be able to do anything also. Rather, it will be Jinnah and Sardar Patel who will realize, and specifically the INC will realize, that if the army takes control, then it becomes a military coup. Then Indian nationalism will again get totally wavered off. So Patel and Jinnah, in the last moment of cooperation, will meet the ratings and say that we will take up your consideration, but you have to stop the mutiny. And it will be the nationalist leaders who will stop the mutiny, knowing that this mutiny could become something bigger. But RIN was that event which totally jolted the British, and the British had no control over their own men in that regard. And it was now clear by 1946 that the British could not control India in any way or form. So the Royal Indian Navy Mutiny, RIN Mutiny, encompasses the total strike and subsequent revolt by Indian sailors of the Royal Indian Navy on board ship and the Bombay Harbour. It will be the flashpoint in Bombay, but will then spread across from Karachi to Calcutta. 78 ships, 200 shore establishments, and 20,000 sailors had got affected by RIN. Further, on February 18th, the RIN mutiny starts with 1,100 of the Royal Indian Navy ratings on HMIS Talwar. HMIS means Her Majesty's Indian Services Talwar went on strike to protest against racial discrimination, very bad food, abuse by superior officers, arrest of a rating for scrolling very beautifully graffitiing on the HMIS Talwar itself, quit India, INA trials, and the use of Indian troops in Indonesia. This is going to become a major issue because the rebellious ratings are going to hoist the tricolor, the crescent, and the hammer. Further, there will be more and more people who will join the ratings. Shopkeepers will say to the ratings, to the sailors, come and take whatever you want to eat. We will not charge you for anything. People knew what they needed to do. Students were now hartaling in protest and in a way to support the sailors. So crowds will bring foods to the rating. Shopkeepers will invite them to take whatever they needed, while the students boycotted classes. Organizations will happen, hartals will happen, sympathetic military establishment strikes will happen in Karachi, Madras, Vishakhapatnam, Calcutta, Delhi, Kochi, Jamnagar, Andamans, Bahrain, Aden, till Southeast Asia, till what we call as Saudi Arabian Peninsula, from Aden to Bahrain, wherever they were rebelling. Further, the Indian Air Force in Bombay, Pune, Calcutta, Jessore, and Ambala will also strike. Later, the army will also join. And it will only be when Patel and Jinnah will persuade the ratings to surrender to the British in February 23rd, 1946, that this whole process is going to stop. Because Patel and Jinnah could see that this could go out of hand and it could become a military coup. So Patel understood that it had to be a peaceful transfer of power, not based on army power. But this event in itself is seen as an eye-opening event for the British. Are we clear with regards to why is RIN so important? Done. Ratings means rating or sailor, same thing. Understood? You get the point why RIN is so important. So if somebody today asks you, why did the British leave India? The answer to that question is the RIN mutiny, the INA trials, the Quit India movement, and the national movement becoming mature enough to be even leaderless. Are you getting my point? RIN mutiny plays a very, very important role in that regard. Yes, ironically, I'll tell you, the INC leaders are still in jail. I'll talk about that. Wavell conference is about that only. Can I close this discussion with Wavell conference? Because Wavell conference confirms something for us. Okay. So if you remember, in 1943, the viceroy was changed, and now comes Archibald Wavell. He is the viceroy. Now, very simply, by 1945, it was clear that the war is going to be over. As it is, it was over. So now there were elections which were going to happen in London. And elections are very bad things. You have to do things which you don't want. So now Churchill says to Wavell in 1945, which is the beginning, May, June of 1935, that do one thing, release all the INC members so that you can do a drama called the Wavell Conference. Imagine, since 1942 August till May of 1945, Nehru, Azad, Gandhi all had been under house arrest or had been arrested. And some of the leaders were given such rigorous imprisonment that most of the leaders, when they came for the Wavell conference in Shimla, could not walk. They came on rickshaws, pale, lost all their weight, extremely malnourished leaders came. It is believed that Nehru and Azad could not even stand for 5 minutes. That was the level of brutality which Lilithgow had shown previously, and Wavell had kept up. So very simply, the fact of the matter is that Wavell Conference was Churchill's last scheme to win an election in London, to show to the people that he represented democracy. So now what is the conference itself? At the Wavell Conference, it was decided that we will transfer power. We will give you dominion status. But in order to write the constitution, we need to create a body which can do that. Now, why do I call Wavell a fool? And why do I call Wavell basically confirming partition of India? Because what was proposed as the Wavell Conference was that the Constituent Assembly will not be elected. Rather, the Viceroy's Executive Council, there's Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad, Viceroy's Executive Council will be restructured. And this restructured Executive Council will act like the Constituent Assembly. And the concept was very simple concept. Wavell, as it is, was not very smart. The concept was that you will have the Viceroy, and he will have 3 bodies attached to him. 5 members. 5 members represented by the Hindus, 5 members represented by the Muslims, and 5 members of the other minorities. Together, these 15 members would control Viceroy's actions, and Viceroy, along with these 15 members, is going to write the constitution. Schemes looks nice. Something was being given. Wavell was trying to work something out. However, if I'm the Muslim League, I would not like this division, because INC will obviously dominate these 5 members. For example, Muslim League is going to do all the 5 here also. But then Dr. Ambedkar will be represented in the other 5. So the INC can push their members here also. So now Jinha did not like this scheme that basically they are in 1/3 majority and INC can be in 2/3 majority. Are you getting the point? That Viceroy's Executive Council can now be dominated by the INC. The Muslim League only has 5 members, and if the other 5 are also not nominated by the Muslim League but by the INC will be everywhere. Further, what was said was that every party is going to give a list that these are the 5 members which we represent. These are the 1 member which is going to go from depressed classes, 1 member from the Anglo-Indians, 1 member from the Christians. And if there's no agreement, you can chalk it out. If not, then the Viceroy decides. Now, Jinha lost his mind. Because he could see that INC can dominate. He's a power-hungry man, knows that he cannot get anything out of this arrangement. So what Jinha says is that I will only become part of this committee. I will only become part of this whole process if all Muslim members are exclusively nominated by Muslim League, and the INC can only nominate Hindu members. So the Muslim League stand was, League wanted all Muslim members to be League nominees because it feared that the aim of the other minorities, which is depressed classes, Sikh, Christians, were also the same as the Congress. And this would reduce them to the League to 1/3 majority. And the League claimed that there should be some form of veto it should have, so that it could oppose any decision, and also any approval would need 2/3 majority approval. Now, basically, who is Jinnah to say this? कौन है? Very simply, who is Jinnah to say this? Viceroy is making it. Who are you to say it? As it is, INC said, we are not a Hindu body. We represent India. They said that we want to nominate Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad. Now, Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad will come here, na? So, very simply, Waival is creating more and more discord. They said 5 members INC, okay. We want to nominate 2 Muslim members also. We want to nominate all 5 elected members also. So what Congress was arguing was that why are you reducing us to a caste Hindu or a Hindu body? We represent India. Let him represent Pakistan or the Muslims. So Jinnah technically should have no stance. Jinnah is nobody. Zero. Made by Lilithgo. Now, if I was Waival, I would have not cared only. I would have not cared. Okay, you walk off. Does not matter. So what happens is that Muslim League, when they don't get their wishes done, they boycott the conference and leave the conference. And this fool called Archibald Waival will dissolve the conference, saying that the Muslim League walked off. He will dissolve the conference by saying that the Muslim League walked off. The Muslim League walked off. None. Did the INC walk off? Did the other minorities walk off? No. By this act by Waival, technically now Jinnah got to know he could dictate anything and everything. Jinnah was shown his power in 1945 Waival conference. Because Jinnah could have walked off. Nobody cared about him. But Waival dissolved the conference. It is like, for example, in SARC or in a very important body in which India, Pakistan, China, even US, and there is Nepal leaves and they dissolve the conference. That Nepal went. Why am I saying this? That this confirmed that partition was going to happen, because now Jinnah could see that he could dissolve conferences when he walked off. The Waival conference, in that sense, sealed the fate of India as 2 nations and not one, because you could see how the British was responding. And this is why it is considered the worst event before independence. Because Jinnah now finally got to know his power. But cabinet mission will show him his basic position. But Churchill and Lithgow had succeeded in what they wanted to do. So do you get the importance of Waival conference? I'll then just add the details and we can end for today. Yes? Okay. So, although the war in Europe was going to end in May of 1945, Japanese threat still remained. Conservative government had to reach a certain constitutional position because there was a basic election coming. So Waival was now permitted to negotiate with the Indian leaders, and all were released in June of 1945. Why the government was keen for a solution? Because a general election was coming in England, which as it is, Churchill will lose. And the conservatives wanted to have sincere solution. There was also pressure from the allies to seek Indian cooperation. And the government wanted to divert Indian energies into more profitable channels, because they could see that the INA, basically it's after the backfiring of the INA. Waival did it intentionally. He's a fool that way, but he did it intentionally. Very simply, the INA trials had become a major, what we call as moment of disrespect, and in that sense, full proper backfiring had happened in the INA trial, so they had to do something about it. Now, what happened under Wavell? The idea was that we will reconstruct. This was Wavell Conference basic plan. We will reconstruct the Governor General's Executive Council, which will then prepare the constitution. For this purpose, a conference will be convened in Shimla in June. The main proposal was dominion status as it is. With the exception of the Viceroy and Commander-in-Chief, all the members of the Executive Council will be Indian, which is again significant. From 8 out of 12, now all of them. Caste Hindus, Muslims will be given equal representation. Head of the government, Indian 5, Hindu 5, Muslim 5, and others 5. So 5, 5, 5, each one of them 5, 5, 5. Thereafter, the reconstructed council was to function as an interim government within the framework of 1935. The Governor General will use his veto on the advice of the ministers. Representatives of different parties were to submit a joint list to the Viceroy of the members to be nominated to the Executive Council. If a joint list was not prepared, separate lists could be submitted. Possibilities were to be kept open for negotiation for new constitution. Once the war is won, process of framing of constitution will start. However, caste Hindu, same thing. Now, Muslim League takes this stance that all members of the Muslims should be nominated by the Muslim League, and 2/3 majority needs for any approval, and veto, there should be certain type of veto which the Muslim League should have. The Congress will very simply say that objected to the plan as an attempt to reduce the Congress to the status of a purely caste Hindu party, insisting the right to include members of all communities amongst the nominees. Wavell's mistake is going to be, with the breakdown of talks, he will thereafter dissolve the conference, therefore giving League a virtual veto. This strengthened the position of the League, and it was evident which is going to happen as soon as I will discuss with you what is going to happen in 1945-46, boosted Jinnah's position and exposed the real character of Churchill. And with this, we end the discussion for today. Tomorrow, together we give India independence. We'll start with the cabinet mission, interim government, Mountbatten Plan, Ismay Plan, and Indian independence 1947. Right? So I hope everything made sense to you today. Thank you. And INA, we discussed quite a lot today, and we have finally reached till this point. Now it's just cabinet mission and the last 1 year. Done? Everything clear? Perfect? No issues? Okay. Perfect. So thank you so much. If you don't have a question, thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. I'll see you tomorrow. Last time for Modern India. Thereafter for post-independence 3 classes. I'll confirm to you the time, and I'll make sure that an email is sent to you with the time for Saturday. Please be ready for one small class on Saturday for post-independence. But tomorrow we end Modern India, master timeline, everything we will do. We'll do previous questions also. And then our orientation will change towards mains, because post-independence is mains oriented. Right? So very simply, if you are not able to understand the book, but if the basic PPT is making sense, not an issue. Very simply, not an issue. Because the book is written in a book form, as it is. Bipin Chandra does not have a lot of events also. So don't worry about that. Simply, I'll tell you, revise from the book, don't learn from the book. If you are able to follow the PPTs are made out of multiple sources, right? So tomorrow is the last class of Modern India. We'll do other multiple small topics also, Congress sessions, the Indian, what is called press regulations, the Vicom Satyagraha and all which is left, small topics. Within the first hour or so, we'll give India independence, and the next 2.5 hours, we'll discuss the smaller topics, right? So don't have to get flustered by the book. If you're able to follow the PPTs, that is more than enough, right? Okay. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. And yes, just remember the basic points here. That is more than enough. Yes, in a way, Pulkit, that is true. Dominion status within the empire means that India cannot leave the British concept, British Empire. Outside empire means it can leave it when they want to. Okay. Taipei is the capital of Taiwan. Parikshit. Prakshik. Okay, Muslim League. Muslim League's feeling towards Japanese aggression is they don't care. Okay. Was there any court in Redford? No, there's no court. It's a public court. Divane am Divane Khas. Okay. See, Ashish, there's no problem if you can't attend on Saturday morning. As it is a recorded class. So that's not an issue for you. Yes, 12th class themes in Indian history, part 3. Okay. Did RIN spread to the Middle East? No. Only till Aden and Bahrain, wherever Indian ships were. Bhardwaj, I'll talk about why post-independence only 3 classes, because one question or no question comes. We'll talk about that. Saturday timing, I will tell you. Don't worry about that. RIN mutiny was not result of the INA trials, but an effect of the INA trials. Can questions come under essay? No. Not modern India will not be asked under essay. Okay, perfect. So, Prakshit, yes. So, I'll see you tomorrow, same time. Bye-bye.